Okay, good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock on Tuesday, April 12th, so I will call the meeting to order. And first thing that we will do is ask Mallory to do our roll call.
Right, Councillor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Donaldson.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Present.
Councillor McKechnie.
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Wood Roberts sends her regrets, and Mayor Roberts.
Present.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and next we will adopt our agenda. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder to adopt our agenda for today. Councillor McKechnie and Councillor Clark. Be resolved that the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting held on April 12th, 2022 be approved as presented. All in favor? Okay, carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Yes, Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Good morning. Yes, I have conflict of interest deemed indirect with item 8E. I'm currently chair of the Haliburton County Development Corporation, and I've submitted and signed a conflict of interest form with the clerk.
Okay, thank you very much for declaring. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, seeing no further, I will look for someone to move the adoption of our minutes from the committee of the whole meeting on March 8th. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, and I'm sorry, I didn't see the second. Councillor Smith. Be resolved that the March 8th, 2022 committee of the whole minutes be approved as circulated. All in favor? Okay, carried. So first off this morning, we have a delegation. I'm sorry, I have a tickle. It's not the other. It's the remnants of a nasty cold. So we do have a delegation, and we'll just bring in Katie and Nicole, I believe. I'm missing someone else. We'll wait till they come in, let them introduce themselves. And maybe I'll kick it off with John Watson introducing them. How's that, John, if I turn it over to you?
Yes, thank you very much, everyone. I'm excited to have Nicole and Katie and potentially Ulas, who are students at Fleming College's Sustainable Waste Management Program. They were kind of project leads, I would say, on a research project we did with ULinks on food waste reduction. So today, Nicole and Katie and Ulas will be presenting some of their findings from the research project that they did. Some of this information has been presented earlier at the ULink Celebration of Research, but it'd be great for Committee of the Whole to see some of the great work that these students have done on Dysart's behalf. So take it away.
So whoever is leading the delegation, I'm not sure, Katie, Nicole, Ulas, who is leading it? Katie? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you.
To share a screen. Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you everyone for having us. As mentioned, myself, Nicole, and Ulas are students at Fleming College in the Sustainable Waste Management Program. And together with ULinks and Dysart, we have created a collaborative research project on food waste reduction. So we're just going to discuss some of our research that we gathered, as well as a potential education and promotion plan.
All right, so what is food waste? Food waste is food and the associated inedible parts removed from the human food supply chain. So they are categorized into 3 categories. So avoidable food waste, which is any sort of leftovers or edible food in your home. Next is possibly avoidable food waste. So an example of that is bread crusts. And unavoidable food waste, which is an example, is eggshells, tea bags, or meat bones as well. So Canadians produce food waste mainly consisting of vegetables, fruits, leftovers, and baked goods. And the average Canadian household produces approximately 140 kilograms of food waste annually, which comes out to approximately $1,000 worth of food. So in Canada, it's a problem because 63% of edible food is thrown away. And when food waste breaks down in an oxygen-deprived environment, such as the landfill, it creates methane, which is a toxic greenhouse gas that's 30 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So Ontario's available landfill capacity is actually expected to be exhausted by the year 2034.
So as I mentioned, we're just going to discuss some of the research that we gathered. So that includes global best practices in Ontario, as well as our potential promotion and education plan. So the first best practice globally would be meal planning. So meal planning and shopping routines explain most of the variance in food waste, with meal planning having the most considerable influence. So sections of meal planning are checking your cupboard inventory before shopping, making a menu plan for the days that follow, as well as writing down lists of the food items that need to be purchased. Now, this might seem quite simple, but as we can see in our daily lives, for example, with exercise routines, it can be very hard to adapt these kind of things into your life. So it's just really important to have these 3 points in meal planning really dialed in your daily routines. And it also should be said that consistency between residents responsible for cooking should mirror those making the shopping lists, meal planning, and shopping. Not saying that one person should be responsible for everything, but maybe it needs to be distributed evenly, because whoever's cooking typically has a better idea of what's going on in the fridge.
So another best practice is preserving and storing food properly. So a few methods are freezing, drying, canning, cold storage, pickling, fermenting, and storing in water. So everyone must be familiar with most of the storage or preservation methods. So I'll just explain what's meant by the storing in water or the fermenting parts. So storing hardy vegetables like celery or carrots after they are cut inside water will prolong their freshness. And by fermentation, it's the use of probiotic bacteria or salt to ferment the food items. So dairy and meat products can be kept for longer periods with this method. So the next one is an effective use of expiration labels. So what the labels indicate actually as dates has nothing to do with food spoilage, and it varies from producer to producer. So most packaged food items can be consumed even after their label date. So the labels you see in the green box in the box below, these types of labels which actually tells the date when the food item is at its best quality or at its best taste. So even if a food item crosses this date, it can still be consumed. However, if the label says like expires by, so in that case, it's better not to consume it after the date. Also, expiry date are mandatory by law to only few types of food items. So they are infant formula, nutritional supplements, meal replacements, food sold by pharmacists, and formulated liquid diets.
Practice that we found is the utilization of leftovers. So the storage of leftovers is often a guilt deferral tactic amongst adults, which can lead to more food waste. So out of sight, out of mind, you put it in the fridge and you come back to it the next day and you don't really want to have leftovers. Leftover food and spoiled produce actually account for 25% of the total waste that households actually produce. And leftovers can actually be repurposed into different meals and to get creative in the kitchen and creating new recipes in your home. And another ideal practice is to minimize those portion sizes. So you don't have like too many leftovers that you're creating and putting away in the fridge for you guys. So overall, best practices in Ontario that we found in our research was to develop promotion and education, enhance and incorporate waste reduction and resource recovery activities within schools, especially to start them in the younger grades. We found that younger adults, actually aged 18 to 34, I think it was, they produce significantly more food waste than any other age group. So we also found to work with partners to support innovative approaches and tools to rescue surplus food. develop food safety guidelines to support the safe donation of surplus food and donate to your local community food banks, and support research that's aimed at reducing and recovering food and organic waste overall.
So through all of the research that we did, we developed an education and promotion plan called the I Taste Zero Waste campaign. So this is what we are proposing, recognizing financial and human resources will play a factor in the ability to implement it. So on the left-hand side, we have the I Taste Zero Waste main poster. There's also a QR code on it to make it accessible. And then on the right-hand side is the educational guide. So we have the 5 steps to reduce waste at home. And those were essentially the information that we've already presented so far, with the addition of disposal options, so donation and composting. So how does the campaign work? Residents who arrive at the waste disposal site to dispose of their waste will be greeted by the I Taste Zero Waste team. So this will be located at the waste drop-off area because that is currently where the organic waste is going. So it's a direct correlation for the resident to know, here's the campaign, here's what we're suggesting, and the behavior that we're trying to change. So residents will be asked to take the pledge to taste zero waste. Upon committing, they'll be offered 1 pin per resident, as well as 1 magnet and educational guide per household. So on the right-hand side, you can see the I Taste Zero Waste pin. The magnet will look very similar. And then the educational guide was in the last slide. So it's really important that we ask them to take a pledge. So there was actually a really successful campaign for donating blood, where at the end they asked on the phone, can we count on you to come to your appointment tomorrow? And it increased the amount of participation significantly. So this is a really important step to getting people to commit. And then the pin's super catchy. It's like a I voted kind of thing. So we also did research in community-based social marketing, which is very successful when you're trying to change behaviors when you can't supervise them. So as this behavior happens in residences, it's important to have these visual signifiers. So that plays into the social norms. So people see it everywhere. So we want people to pin it, post it, and boast it to their reusable grocery bags or backpacks. So that way, when people are at the grocery store, right where they start purchasing their food, they'll be able to see it everywhere and they'll see that everyone else is doing it. And then backpacks is great at school to get all age groups involved. So potential partnerships would be the Rotary Club of Haliburton. They have the Good Food Box, which is the meal prepping, pre-prepped meals. So that goes right into the meal planning. As we mentioned, that is the most significant factor in food waste reduction. And then as well, the Haliburton County Market, Farmers Market, local grocery stores, and public schools could also be areas where the I Taste Zero Waste team was set up.
So as part of community communication, we're planning educational posters that will be posted in public community centers such as arenas, community center, like libraries, schools, shops, and other public areas. Also, all educational promotional materials will be accessible by QR code to provide a paperless and on-the-go resource for residents. So in that case, everybody will get all the information in their smartphones. Also, educational guides will be distributed by mail, in addition being available to all the waste disposal sites. And also ads which will be broadcasted via radio, also newspaper and social media, with the slogan of I Taste Zero Waste will be conducted. So these are the 2 social media sample posts we made as part of the project, and we'll be making more of this and posting them through social media. And that's all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening.
So
Well,
we can
thank
open up for
you.
questions.
Yes, thank you all 3 of you for your presentation. I have to say that graphic right there that's still up on your share screen is really good. I don't know who designed that, but it looks great. And your whole presentation, one thing that really caught my ears or ears pricked up as whatever, is the age group, the younger age group you felt has a higher waste with food. Do you think are they paying for their groceries? Because one thing I certainly noticed, I think, most people, is the price of food has gone up significantly, not just a little bit where it's gradual and you notice, oh, look, it's 10 cents more. Or, I mean, I bought a red pepper the other day. It wasn't on sale, but I bought one instead of a bag full. Because I don't want to waste food. So I wonder too, with the price of groceries, so going up as significantly as it is, that maybe people will waste a little bit less and be more conscious. But I just, so comments or question about the age category. Why do you think that that is, that the younger people are wasting more? And maybe you can stop sharing screen and I'll be able to see all the, if you don't mind. Thank you.
So we found that in our research that the younger kind of generation, they are more concerned with the financial aspect of food waste instead of like actually wasting food that's going in the garbage. Yeah, so aside from that, it was more like the financial aspect. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
also you could say that as you begin to start purchasing your own food in those younger generations, you're really trying to figure out the balance. And I think that food is not of a priority in your finances, right? You're going to cut prices on your toilet paper. You're going to cheap out on those things. So I think the younger generation, it's just a learning curve, I guess, with that kind of thing. And then additionally, we did do some research on age, and older age categories tend to save money in all aspects of their life just based on the historical events that they have occurred and their parents had occurred. So those were kind of the two factors.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions. Or John, did you want to go first, John Watson, before I open up to councillors? Any comment with working with this group? Or
it's been a pleasure working with them. They've done some great work, and maybe after questions and answers from councillors, I can just give a little follow-up of kind of where we're going with this campaign.
Okay, because I did see question. I'm sorry, I saw a hand. Is that Deputy Mayor Kennedy? Go first. Yeah. And then Councillor Clark.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. My question is, with the lower tiers moving to a county-wide look at waste management and what we're going to do moving forward, do you have any plans on showing this presentation and your research results to any of the other lower tiers and or the county? And also, if you're looking at visiting any of the other local environmental committees that are in existence around the county, just to help promote this exciting work that you've been doing. Thank you.
Thus far, we haven't been, I guess, invited or gone that far with the scope. I guess that would be more something, a question for John, and how he wants the project to go in what direction.
John, go ahead. Before Larry, sorry, just or Councillor Clark.
Yeah, so I can definitely reach out to my counterparts at the other lower tier municipalities. I think there'd be great interest in this campaign and how we could have it roll out across all of our 4 municipalities.
Great question. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, and just to support what John was saying there, it makes sense that through his contacts with his counterparts in the other townships that we get this out there, especially given that the school system is so integrated. But my question to the team is you know, it's very interesting that 18 to 30 bracket you're talking about. And yes, the finance part usually is a very busy lifestyle where the idea of having to shop and cook for food is not the same as a senior where you make a cent of your day. But I'm thinking that it's a big environmental concern given the methane that's coming off it, and given that the younger population, the younger groups are very keyed into best environmental practices or looking at things going forward. I'm looking at maybe perhaps next steps is adapting this so that it could be generated or could be produced or somehow integrated into the educational program starting, you know, grades 2, 3, 5, you know, in the lower tier. That seems to be, I think, where the cultural change has to happen. As you're identified, once you get them to the 18 to 30 bracket, you're not changing their minds. They've got their own stuff. But if you've already got it ingrained in terms of the best practices around protecting our environment, I think that's the group, I think, where you have to start, at least in my opinion, anyway. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Yeah, I mean, it's an environment, but it's also sort of that moral and ethical. You talked about, people being older. Like I grew up in a household where you didn't waste food. Like, it just was the wrong thing to do. We didn't even think about the environmental aspect. It's just because I won't say it because there were starving children in the world. So, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. And again, thanks for a great presentation. Madam Mayor, you may have had the same lectures from your parents about starving children elsewhere in the world. And we all heard that many times. But I had a couple of questions. I noticed from the report, the written report that you submitted, that you didn't get a lot of participation. You did a survey of other municipalities in terms of trying to identify some of their best practices. But beyond, tackling this problem at the source, which is really the households and the education campaign, which I think is terrific, but were you able to identify any things as a municipality that, we might consider doing differently in terms of how we handle the waste that we receive?
So yeah, to the first comment, it was very difficult. And for those of you who haven't read the report, it was very difficult to gather information on other food waste reduction strategies. And that's because they simply don't really exist. And also getting participation is hard. So it is kind of an up and coming hot topic right now. So a lot of communities are just in the process of developing and they don't have that information. In terms of municipalities and things we can do, I think promotion and education is really one of the big drivers. But I did read an article recently about behavioral change, and that's all great and well, but really it comes from the societal functions and really ingraining it into the systems. So like the suggestion that was made earlier, putting it into the school system, it's really about creating more of a holistic approach. As the circular economy is also a hot topic, everything needs to work with each other. So if you can ingrain this into every aspect of your municipality that it's relevant to, then I think that's really an important aspect of how everything that needs to be, changed in terms of climate really needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a follow-up to that then, as we embark on this, and let's say that we pursue the educational campaign as an example, any thoughts in terms of measures of success? So how will we know that, the educational campaign, if we were to put the time and money into that, how are we going to measure our success?
Yeah, so the measures of success, we wrote in the report, just really auditing is really important. Having some money set aside in the budget for auditing. So knowing where your start point is, your middle point, and your end is. We were able to, during the program, speak with the circular economy head, who is for Guelph, and they're very ahead in terms of Ontario with that. And she said something that really ingrained in me. And it was, if you can't measure it, then you can't assess it, right? So it's really important, as and it might not seem like a priority, but you need to know where your starting point is and where your ending point is. So we did recommend to have, I know there was an audit that did happen. We weren't able to get the results before we wrote our report, so maybe that could be integrated. But having an assessment midway just to see where we're at, and then also having one at the end of the program term, and then to see the potential for it to continue on.
All right. Yep, I saw that in the report. Then thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all three. I think that concludes the questions. Anything, John, did you want to wrap up anything else? Excuse me.
I have a report that just follows up on this. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll leave. Okay, perfect. So I will ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation. Excuse me. Councillor Clark, and seconded by Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole acknowledges receipt of the presentation from Fleming College Sustainable Waste Management student representatives on the Dysart et al. And ULINK's collaborative research project on food waste reduction. All in favor? Okay, and that carries. And thank you again, all three, for your commitment to this project and for your line of research and your education. Good luck with your futures. You all seem very, very committed, very bright. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
So the next is the staff report online. And I'll turn that over to you, John.
All right, thanks very much, everyone. I just wanted to kind of raise to everyone's attention that approximately 320 hours of time was dedicated by the Sustainable Waste Management students to research and develop the report. As they definitely mentioned, they recommended an implementation of a promotion and education campaign using the slogan, "I taste zero waste." I really have been taken by that campaign. They definitely, I think, is something that would really resonate within our community. Obviously, we may not have the financial resources to implement all of the campaign that they're recommending, but one of the students, Ulis, who is on the call, he actually is doing a remote student placement with us. So he is actually creating a lot of promotional material that will help expand this campaign using social media and postcards. So we're hoping to start rolling this campaign out as we get into the hopefully May long weekend. Do a series of weekly campaigns and postcards identifying each of those different components around leftover utilization, proper storage in your fridge. So that's all in place, including the 2022 tax bill insert that will be going out in June. We'll have some little information in there about the I Taste Zero Waste campaign. So using the resources available, we're definitely trying to implement this, and I'll touch base with my counterparts to see if it's something that we can expand to the other municipalities as well.
That's great. And that was a good point, Deputy Mayor Kennedy, because we did say with service delivery review, that we wanted to, if we've taken on this, let's share this. And instead of our counterparts seeing it on social media going, why did we know about this? So, you never know, might be a countywide. And it's a great initiative. It really is. Get us all a little more consciously thinking about the environmental impacts, but also the social and moral impacts of wasting food. I happen to know somebody who, when it says best before, they won't touch it. They won't taste or smell. It says right here, best before. No, that doesn't, you're not going to die. Anyway, that kind of stuff is really important. So there is a resolution here to receive this and recommendations. So I will look for council to move in second. Councillor Smith and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be resolved that the Committee of the Whole receive a report on food waste reduction conducted by Fleming College's Sustainable Waste Management Program. Do we need anything in there further, Mallory, that we are continuing with the that resolution just says we're receiving?
Yeah, John, did you need further direction from council? Are you requesting additional monies or anything like that? Or is this just part of your education campaign?
Just part of the education campaign, so not requesting additional monies.
Okay.
Okay, the resolution is enough? Okay, I didn't know if you were looking for that we approve the recommendation of the I Taste Food Waste. Okay, so I did have mover seconder. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Okay, carried. Just wanted to check. As I was reading it and coughing, I just wanted to make sure it was strong enough language that there was direction there. Okay, thank you so much, John. Great job. Okay, so next we have a report from fire. There's no staff joining us today, so the report is there. If there's any questions, you can bring them forward through to Tamara. Any questions out loud right now or no? Okay, so I'll just get a mover and seconder to receive the report. Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be resolved that the Committee of the Whole acknowledges receipt of the Fire Department report for March 2022. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Next, we'll be moving into Public Works, where John stayed on screen because we've got more environment stuff. But we'll start with winter operations when we see Rob. And we're having a technical difficulty. So what we're going to do, that's okay. What we're going to do is move all the way to, how about item E, John, which is the food cycler pilot project update. Can we do that with you alone?
John actually has a few before that, so if John, if you want to take it off.
I'm sorry, I'm just glancing through where
That's
his
okay.
name is, but where
That's
he was
okay.
on his own.
Yeah, he's on his own for the batteries.
Okay, we'll start at item C. Thank you, Mallory.
No problem.
Okay, item C, John, and you unmute.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
This is a draft bylaw to authorize the execution of a batteries service agreement with Call to Recycle Canada. Back in February 2020, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks approved Ontario Regulation 3020 batteries, and that came into effect on July 1st of 2020. Raw Materials Corporation, RMC, had been providing collection and processing of household single-use and rechargeable batteries to Dysart since 2013. And in June of 2020, we entered into a service agreement with Raw Materials Corporation in response to that new regulation. In March of this year, it was announced that RMC would no longer be accepting any batteries from any Ontario municipality. And this was solely an operational change between RMC and the producer responsibility organization called Call to Recycle Canada. So now we're actually required to enter into a service agreement with Call to Recycle Canada to retain the collection and processing of household batteries at Dysart's 5 waste disposal sites. In addition, Call to Recycle Canada requires us to enter into a freight provider agreement with the registered hauler, and our registered hauler would be Buckham Transport, which handles our household hazardous waste days. There's no financial obligation for that agreement. It's basically when we have batteries to be picked up, we tell Call to Recycle, and then Call to Recycle gives us a bill of lading. We give that to Buckham. Buckham comes and picks it up. And Call to Recycle would give us a financial incentive for the batteries collected, very similar to what we had previous with RMC, so there'd be no impact on our budget. This is mainly just an agreement operational change.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Clark, go ahead.
It's for you, Madam Mayor. John, I'm just trying to remember, is there an environmental fee on batteries when you buy them? And if so, would that be applied towards operation of this program?
So environmental fees, if there are fees on a battery, that is something that the producer has arranged with the retailer, and then that funds the recycling of the program and essentially funds the money that we get to collect it. It is not a tax, those environmental fees. It does not go to the government. It's to help cover the cost of the recycling that the producer has a responsibility to bear.
Okay, Councillor Deputy Mayor Kennedy, just one sec. I know I don't ever walk through the front door anymore. I end up coming in the staff entrance at the back when I do get here, but we always had a container here at the front entrance for people. Are there other places around town where they sell batteries where they could also promote that they accept dead and used batteries?
Yes, I know for sure that at Home Hardware in the village of Haliburton, there definitely is a battery recycling bin at the front. When you're exiting, there's a bin there that you can drop off your household batteries for recycling.
Excellent. I think that really needs to be promoted, the ease of it. I know what I ended up doing after seeing the container here at the front door is very clearly put a container in my garage that's where I put mine as I collect them, and sort of, I don't use very many, but then they're separate there instead of having two, and but it's really important to make it as easy as possible so people don't put them in their garbage. I did see hands. I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Kennedy, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, John, for this report. I went through it, and the only thing that really caught my eye, and I may not have read everything in complete detail, was these containers that they're shipped in. Who's paying for those? Like the very, very specific requirements of these containers. So as Call to Recycle, are they going to provide these for us, or do we have to source them? Or
Call to Recycle would either source them or reimburse us for the purchase of those bins. We're hoping that Buckham would provide them because of the requirements, the safety requirements of them.
Thank you.
Good question. Was there another? I did see another hand. Councillor Smith.
Thanks, John. And as the Deputy Mayor pointed out, that agreement with Call to Recycle is pretty prescriptive in terms of things we need to do. And it caused me to wonder, they've defined two rates there. We get 55 cents per kilogram kind of for batteries that get collected at the landfill site. If they're dropped off as part of the hazardous waste day, we somehow get $1.20 per kilogram. I'm not sure the rationale for the difference, but whatever it is, the world is moving to full producer responsibility here in Ontario. Do you believe that all of our costs associated with collecting and managing this process, are all of our costs going to be recovered through those fees that will be paid by Call to Recycle?
It is admittedly hard to gauge that because we don't pay for anything for this program to collect the batteries, except for the staff time to direct people to the correct bin. But it's hard to say 2% of a staff person's time is devoted to batteries. It's a kind of a loosey equation to come up with. I would say, especially on the battery front, our costs are being accommodated. It's a relatively low impact program for us to operate at our 5 sites, with Call to Recycle having collection at all 5.
Yeah. Well, I hope and I hope council will support us as we move along. But I think it would be important for you as the person that's closer to this of anybody here to kind of keep an eye on that and watch how we're allocating our resources and are these various recoveries that we're going to start receiving, are they enough? Are they appropriate? And is it really resulting in full producer responsibility, or are our property taxpayers still going to be left, picking up part of the tab for these things?
Okay, so thank you for all that explanation and good questions. So I will look for mover and a seconder if I could. Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole recommends that the bylaw to authorize the execution of the new battery services agreement with Call to Recycle Canada Incorporated be brought forward to the April 26, 2022 council meeting for approval, and further that the Committee of the Whole directs staff to enter into an agreement with Buckham Transport for the transportation of household batteries. All in favor? Okay, carried. So let's start at the top. Hi, Rob, welcome. We'll start with winter operations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So starting with winter operations, I think we can all collectively exhale now that the 2021-22 winter season is behind us, I hope. Looking at the summary, you can see it kind of ended a lot heavier than last year. One thing I do want to point out is last month I had questions about clarification on plow service kilometers and sanding service kilometers. So just to clarify, when we plow a road, if it's 5 kilometers long, we're actually plowing 10 lane kilometers. We plow in, we plow out. When we sand, we're applying sand at the center line. Generally, we sand on the way out. So we sand 5 kilometers on that same stretch. So typically the lane kilometers are double what the center line kilometers are. You can see March was pretty hurtful to us, certainly over last year, albeit last year was a lean year. But if you go towards the end, I really wanted to emphasize the amount of ice we had on our roads. And this instance was up at Kinesis Lake Road. That ice is about 10 inches thick, probably closer to 12. And we did have that throughout our network on several sites. So that's the worst I had seen it in my years here. And hopefully we don't go through that again, ever. Quite honestly, this was a tough year for us, for sure.
Yeah, that final picture was just a OMG moment. We heard of where, and what happens is it's all fine if that's all solid, but when it starts to melt and you get a technically like an ice pothole, how do you fill an ice pothole? You that's the problem. It's not an asphalt or a surface treated pothole that we can put in. So when it starts to break up in certain sections, that's where I think we had some real challenges.
That's where we had the biggest struggle is, as of the time of this report, we were up to 64 frozen culvert sites, and everything's good and fine for the first day because the water just goes over the road, but over time it cuts into the ice. So in this instance, we ended up with a trench 10 to 12 inches deep across the road. And that's when we get the equipment up there and we basically have to excavate the ice or send the graders up there with the ice blades and just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth and shave it down. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. It just takes time to fix. So.
Yeah, and all of that started really building up back in January.
Yes.
So there's not much you can do by the time March rolls around. With the
Yeah,
ice
we are still. I'm not even sure if it's out today, but certainly yesterday we had the steamer out, so we are still actively pursuing frozen culverts.
Yeah. Sorry for that. Okay, mover and seconder to receive the report on winter maintenance or the March report. Councillor Clark and Councillor Donaldson. Question, Councillor Jonathan, or question? I'm sorry, Councillor Smith. Yeah.
A couple questions of Rob, not related to winter, but related to roads in the upcoming months. I don't know if that would be appropriate now or to be a little later, but
it's not under operation, so I'll go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Rob, a couple of topics that we've talked about in the past. One is speeding, and you were doing some work on a community safety zone program, and kind of related to that on Bitter Lake Road. There'd been a petition last fall where they were looking for something to help with speeding on that road. Right now, it's pretty good because of the potholes on the road and the rough surface, but that's not going to last once you get the grader in there. That's a road that legally the speed limit is 80 kilometers per hour because there is no signage. Did you have any plans to address the concerns that those members of the community had shared with their petition last fall?
Yes, it is on my list. I'm hoping to bring something back this spring prior to the summer season. But I can't commit to a time right now unless I get direction from council, but it is on my list and I hope to have something to council this spring.
Okay, fair enough. It is a little bit more off topic than I thought. So,
well, it's related to roads, and we need to get this. It's April now. The next committee of the whole meeting will be May, and we'll be into the May 24th weekend before that council meeting. And this was a concern. I mean, there was a petition that 80 some people, if I recall the number, had signed that they were very concerned about that. So I don't think we need a direction from council, but I'd hope that others would signal this is something that's important. It's been not limited to Bitter Lake Road, but across our community, speeding is an issue every summer.
I think Councillor Smith, there had been direction at council. Is just the Director of Public Works. We know we're short-staffed in that department, and he's doing 2 jobs. So I think it's just a matter of capacity. It's not like he said. It's still on the radar. It's not that it's dropped off. There was direction back in the fall, and I understand that. I mean, but we also did take out a speeding survey that in our budget, so that we said we didn't want to do last year. So. It's there. It's just, I think staff are at capacity, and hopefully some kind of report will be coming in May, if that's okay. Councillor Clark.
Related to the winter operations. Rob, we've been getting quite a few calls about the amount of potholes in the roads, but and a lot of the issues, the frost is coming out of the roads. In terms of a timeline, what do you think? It'll be 3 or 4 weeks before that stops and you're able to then start addressing it, or any kind of a time frame or conditions before we can start dealing with some of that?
It's hard. If it keeps up the way it is, I'd say in the south end, we may try grading even next week, kind of the middle of next week towards the end. Certainly the further north you go, the longer it's going to take. They're generally 2 to 3 weeks behind us. I was up there last week and there's still 2-foot snowbanks. So, maybe Councillor Smith can look out his window and tell me what's up there now, but it's certainly not ready for a grader. It would just fall through the road and we'd be into a reconstruction for sure. So we are patching potholes in the hard top roads as we can get around to them. But there are some gravel roads around here that literally can't even support a pickup truck right now. They're that soft. So, I mean, it just takes time.
Okay, so I did have a mover in a second. Oh, Councillor McKechnie?
Yeah, in regard to winter operations, Rob, would it be beneficial to us to purchase another steamer for this culvert project? I'd be curious to know what it costs and if we should be thinking about that in the future. Because having one, and you're saying you still have 60 some culverts there, one major problem with a frozen culvert can cost a lot more money but maybe the cost of the steamer is a lot of money. I don't know. I'd like to know what a cost of a new steamer for you would be if you think it would really help.
Yeah, they're about $20,000. I mean, the issue with them is there's really only one company that can manufacture them to CSA standards. And I believe the last we had spoken with them, they're about 8 months out. The other thing is it's okay to have it here, but you need the people to run it. So this year, just the kind of the winter it was, we always had two running the steamer and then everybody else would be out sanding, quite honestly. So to me, there's not much sense in having one sitting at the shop just to have there if you don't have the people to run it. And, you know, I've said it a couple of times, this is the worst winter I've seen for frozen culverts. Last year, I think we had it out maybe half a dozen times and that was it. You know, hopefully we don't go through the 60 and 70 every single year. You know, if we get back-to-back years or 3 in a row, then yeah, I'm probably going to come back and ask for more resources for sure. But you know, as with anything else, we get blips on the radar and maybe next year will be a light winter again. Who knows?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, good question. That was a good point. Okay, so I'm surprised nobody asked about when are they cleaning up my sand, but that's a joke. Okay, I do have just to keep things light. I know that comes. Councillor Clark had moved and Councillor Donaldson had second. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole receives and acknowledges the April 2022 report about winter operations F4 as information. All in favor? Okay, carried. That one. Next is where am I? Sorry, turn the page. Okay, yep, follow up on the location of a road.
Yeah, so this is a follow-up from about middle of last year, quite honestly, and I do apologize for the length of time it took to come back. It was, you know, solely based on staff resources. It did take several days of digging into the archives to kind of go through this one. As you can see, we were directed at the meeting in August to investigate the concern about straightening out the road and come back with any findings. So Lynn in our office here went through many minutes and bylaws and roll files, and she communicated with retired road department superintendents and the county 911 department. And basically it boils down to is we can't find anything on record that there was an agreement in place to straighten out the road. The only thing that we found that came close was in 1994, they agreed to pave the hills on the old Buckhorn Road, but they really weren't pinpointed to which hills they were. But regardless, that those minutes did not reference anything to realigning the road. So staff are recommending that, you know, we just go back to the ratepayer in question and just let them know we couldn't find anything. If they have something further, by all means, bring it forward. But on our end, it's blank.
Okay, well, thank you, Robin. Thank you to Lynn too, doing all that research, because reading the council minutes from 1928 to 1934 is a bit of a dig. I mean, we have them and their most beautiful script. If anyone sees that writing, it's almost hard to read that type of writing anymore. But, you know, we really have taken this seriously and put in a lot of staff time. And I think this is you know, it's time to put this to bed. Councillor Clark and then Councillor Smith.
Yeah, yeah. My apologies to Lynn for initiating some of this. Anyway, on this, Rob, it's not something that's kind of going away, and it's not the only road. We've got a number of spots within the county where, I guess at the time, given the topography, the township put the road where it was most convenient as opposed to being on township property. The situation we've got with Mr. Smith's property out in Hutchings is the road covers a piece of his property that's one of the few areas he's got where it's appropriate to build a house for his daughter. So as a result, he's interested in us moving the road. So what it comes back to, I guess, is very much of a legal issue, I guess, is probably, I think what next step would be is, you know, what would our solicitors say, or is there any kind of guidance from the province where, you know, we've got a historical situation where we've put our road on property that doesn't belong to us, and we've impacted the property owner as a result. So I guess my request then is you in consultation with Tamara perhaps is there you know, is an appropriate next step then to address this through our legal counsel, and I'm pretty sure that this is not going to be the only similar case that we're going to be dealing with, that the township will have to deal with over the next few years. Thank you.
Rob, did you want to answer that, or?
No, I agree. I mean, we have this all throughout the township. It's all through Ontario, quite honestly. And everything was fine, as the letter references, until recently when they want to change something. So presumably back in the 1930s, everybody would be glad to have a road going by their front door, because there weren't roads back then in the middle of nowhere. What it boils down to is, you know, the road is there. There is a prescriptive right for the municipality to have that road there and maintain it. Now, what council needs to look at it on a case-by-case basis is there mutual benefit to moving the road. You know, does Dysart have a net benefit to moving that road? Is it a through road? Is it a high speed, high volume, that kind of thing? So I don't think it's just a case of, yes, we should move the road and let's move it. I think we do have to have a clearer framework on how we want to approach these. And, you know, engaging the legal counsel is certainly step one in my mind.
But the question from the individual was, you know, that there had been an agreement in the past that Dysart said it would move it, and there is not. So, you know, full stop.
That's correct. And if we did find something, you know, I would be fully advocating that we honor the agreement if there was something in place. So,
yeah. Councillor Smith, question?
Thank you. And Rob, the other aspect of the letter, the Mr. Smith who wrote the letter is no relation, by the way, he's suggesting that the stretch of road is dangerous because of curve there. Now, it doesn't seem to me, I'm not an expert, but it didn't seem like a very dangerous curve compared to many curves in our roads. It's you know, relatively subtle. But you're the expert. Did you see anything unsafe about this stretch of road as it is now laid out?
In my opinion, no. I think it's quite typical, actually. Very few of our roads are engineered. So it was basically wherever they could get by the tree and over the rock, and that's kind of where it is. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier is, you know, it's generally a low speed, low volume road. So it boils down to risk. If we were going to move the road, absolutely, we would be putting it to current day standards, which is going to put the cost right through the roof.
Yeah, but relative to other roads, if you had suddenly had a little budget to address unsafe roads in our community, this would not be near the top.
No, it would not be.
No.
Thank you very much.
Probably not to the top, probably not even included, because it's just normal. It's not, yeah. All right, I do have a resolution, if I could, to receive, mover and a seconder. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Smith. Be resolved that the committee receive and acknowledge this report concerning the location of the municipal road at 1240 Hutchings Road as information, and that the committee recommend that council direct staff to advise the resident of 1240 Hutchings Road that no agreements were found in the municipal records to indicate that the municipal road was to be relocated. All in favor?
Madam Mayor, we also
Yes.
discussed the need for some legal.
I don't think I don't know what legal opinion that we would need. What we were asked to do was to see that there had been a historic agreement that we would move the road, and we've dug in every closet and every file cabinet that we have access to that are public records, and there's no indication that we were ever going to relocate the road.
But that doesn't.
Why
make
would
it
we
right.
don't
That
need to
doesn't-
do anything else? We don't.
I think we do. I think we've got a legal obligation to, because we've got the road on somebody else's property. We need, and in those days, there were no opinions put together as we've identified. There was no agreements. However, that doesn't take away the fact that we've got a road sitting on somebody else's property where they want to build a house. So we need something to either say that, fine, it was, the township is right in terms of maintaining and we'll get a trade off something else for them, or that we have to move the road one way or the other, but we need a legal opinion. We have not got the resources in our staff to be able to call that. It's a legal
So
issue.
I'm going to ask Councillor Clark, I actually did read and I got a mover and a seconder and actually read the resolution was calling for the vote. So while well, you should have had your hand up a little bit earlier.
We talked
for the
about
question
this.
because
I
it's
raised the
order of
point and you
process,
didn't put it
Councillor
in.
Clark. Order of process is I am very open to looking up at a screen and making sure everyone's had an opportunity to comment. And then I'm going to just turn to Mallory and ask her, because I have a resolution that I have that was put on the table and I called for a vote. Mallory?
We can ask, so the mover and seconder was Councillor Donaldson, Councillor Smith. So we can add the line at the end and see if they still want to move and second the amendment. So if we want to add and further that the committee recommends that council direct staff to seek advice from the municipal solicitor on this file as another line, and see if Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Smith are okay with moving that. We want to go.
Keep in mind, they don't have to, and there's a cost.
No,
to
they
that,
don't.
so-
No, it would just be up to them. Yeah.
So Councillor Donaldson, I've turned to you first. You moved. I recognize you as moving the motion. Did you want to add that we seek legal counsel?
I don't know whether because it's a totally different thing, same subject, but if what was on the agenda was to look and see whether there was proof that we were supposed to do something, and that's what I was moving on. If we want to open it up and there's and I think that it's two separate things, because the next motion would be on do we want to have legal counsel? So
So Councillor Donaldson, I'm just going to hold that thought. I'm just going to go back to the clerk. There is notice of the motion at the end of the meeting that if we want to just hold the resolution as it is, and someone wants to make a notice of motion at the end of the meeting that gets seconded, we could do it that way as well.
We could, if there's enough support right now, we could just amend the resolution too.
Okay, but Councillor.
Maybe go to the floor and see if everyone else, so instead of using the original mover and seconder, perhaps we can ask council if anyone wants to move and second the amended. So we'll go to that. So we know, for example, that Councillor Clark will move it because it's what he wants. So if anyone will second it, then we'll go,
Okay.
We'll redo it that way.
So is there a seconder for that? Councillor Deputy Mayor Kennedy, you're seconding that? So can you read what the amendment would say?
Sure. So it would read as the original resolution. At the end, it would say, and further that the committee recommends that council direct staff to seek advice from the municipal solicitor on this file. So we'd reach out to the municipal solicitor and ask them about this particular case.
Okay, so we do now have a mover and a seconder for that, and I will call. Is that all in favor? I see 4 hands, so that carries. Okay, I will get that from you later. In future, I really tried my best. It is not easy to look up at a screen, but to make sure that all questions are posed or brought up prior to when I call for a vote, it makes it. I mean, I'm not a parliamentary expert. I do my best, but you know, once a vote's been called, you should try to add your points prior to that. We did item C, so I believe we're on item D.
Right. So this is a report about a draft bylaw to authorize the execution of a hazardous and special products service agreement with Rise Solutions. In June 2021, the Ontario Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks approved Ontario Regulation 44921, hazardous and special products, which came into effect on October 1st of 2021. Starting on October 1st, 2021, hazardous and special products producers became individually accountable and financially responsible for requirements set out under the regulation to manage the materials that they produce. As such, municipalities throughout Ontario are required to enter into new service agreements with individual producers or producer responsibility organizations, PROs, that collect and manage these materials. So this is the second service agreement under this regulation that we'd be entering into. This one would be for designated pressurized containers, and the PRO is Rise Solutions. The agreement presented by Rise Solutions was developed in partnership with the Regional Municipality of Peel's legal department, so it has been vetted from a municipal standpoint. Essentially, what would happen for the financial implications is Rise would pay Dysart's service provider, Buckham, through a signed agreement for hauling and processing of designated materials collected at our household hazardous waste dates. So there would be no financial obligation to us, but this is to put it into to make it official that we have this agreement with Rise.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Question by Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, John, for the report. A couple of things. One, the agreement lists only the Haliburton, West Guildford, and Harcourt landfills. Would you have an explanation for that before I kind of comment further?
Yeah, those are where the household hazardous waste events take place at Dysart hosts, because we can only collect these materials at those events.
And the other comment that I had, and it's interesting, I guess it's maybe the history of the agreement in terms of being developed or approved by the Region of Peel as a municipal government, is that this agreement is much more municipality friendly, if you like, than the one with the Canfor company that is doing the batteries. In that you get to try to track all of the staff time and promotional costs and so forth, and charge those, to this this producer representative organization. And so as a small municipality, we don't get to influence a lot of things, but I'd hope whenever you do get a chance to provide some input on agreements that we'd kind of push more towards this model than the battery one, because it really does represent, I think, to the municipal property taxpayer, a fair arrangement.
Yeah.
Okay, if no further questions, I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, and seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole recommends that the bylaw to authorize the execution of the new hazardous and special products services agreement with Rice Solutions Incorporated be brought forward to the April 26, 2022 council meeting for approval. All in favor? It carries. Okay, and now we're on to the food cycler project update, which was not successful in the lottery.
Yeah, sorry. Food Cycler, yeah, Food Cycler has been very exciting the last few weeks, that's for sure. We had a registration process open from February 23rd to March 31st. 272 registrations were received. 28 of those were outside of Dysart, so we excluded them from the actual registration process, and they were notified to that effect. So there was 244 Dysart registrations. In the report, there's a timeline of when the—
Well, you just went on mute accidentally, John.
Sorry. In the report, there's a chart that summarizes as those registrations happen in kind of in alignment with some of the promotion and education tactics that we're using, whether it be social media or print advertising. The registrations, obviously, they identified social media as the #1 source of where they found out about the pilot, followed by newspaper articles, which were a result of the media releases we sent to the newspapers. It is interesting. There is a map kind of where the registrations came from. And I like this map because I think it shows it's not just people in the village or people on more of an exclusive lake who are interested in this pilot project. It was all across Dysart that people were interested in participating. On April 1st, we held a lottery to select the 100 participants. They were notified by email to confirm their participation. And those who did not win were also notified by email. We've done pickup events last week. So there was 4 days of being in a tent outside selling the food cyclers. At those events, residents who were in the participation would pick up their food cycler, purchase it, and receive some promotional material from us. The pilot officially started on April the 10th, so on Sunday. So we'll be doing our first weekly logs this coming Saturday. For those who did not win in the lotto, we sent them a follow-up email just to see if we were to offer the food cycler at a price of $250, so without the subsidy from the ratepayers, would they be interested in participating? 87% at the time of the report's publishing date responded yes. It's now up to 88%. We've had a few other surveys come in. We also asked a question to those, would they be willing to pay at $250 plus an administrative fee to offset some of our costs? And 64% at the time of publishing, now 63% said they would. The one kind of condition around this is that we would need to order a skid's worth of food cyclers, so 36 units. And admittedly, if you had a chance to visit council chambers last week when it was full of food cyclers, they take up a lot of space, and that really is the only location that we have here at Town Hall to store them. Just with security at the landfills, it's not really a good place, and the arena doesn't have sufficient capacity to be storing that quantity of material. So, so far so good. The project's been going really well. I know Minden Hills is looking at doing a pilot as well this year, and I think Algonquin Highlands is again looking at ways that they could maybe either continue or offer the program again. So it is a good news story. The pilot's been very well received so far.
Okay, thank you for that, John. I know it's been a lot of work, and yes, I was one that walked into here and went, whoa, good thing we aren't meeting in person because there's no room to move in here. But I've also seen some people I know that were successful in the lottery already post on their personal social media sites, like, look what this, the before and after, which we had done in our own promotional material. But I think that helps as well. It's pretty exciting. It's a pretty easy fix to reduce the waste that we take to our waste disposal sites. So what is the outcome? There's a report to receive the report, but do we go with the whatever it was, $250 or the admin fee? Is that not a decision that council should make?
Yeah, I'm open for council making that decision. I wasn't going to lean in any direction.
No, but it wasn't in the resolution. I mean, personally, well, we'll see what the other councillors say. I'll open it up to the floor first from Councillor Smith.
Yeah, great. And thanks, John. It's wonderful to see the progress here and the enthusiasm at this point in the community, for these devices, and the fact that 88%, that's remarkable, have said, look, I'm happy to pay the extra $100 plus HST, so $250 plus HST for this device. And so first, if you need council direction on the question of should we get more, it seems to me that we should definitely get more, and much like the existing outdoor composters and digesters, have these things available even after the fact, because as word gets around, there'll be more people who'll say, boy, I wish I could get one of those things. And so if we had a few extra, that'd be terrific. And I don't see the need for the admin fee. I mean, the fact is that these devices will mean that people have less garbage to bring to our landfills and transfer stations. So that's going to be good for us. We'll save money over time because we'll have less garbage to process and pay a contractor to haul away. I don't know if we need a motion to procure more of these devices, and if you had a quantity in mind, John, in terms of the number of skids that we would need to get, but I'd be happy to move something along that line if that's what you require.
Okay, I'll wait to just hear from staff first. The capacity space is a problem to order, like if we ordered them all, okay, you're saying we could order them in, we have to order them in increments of 36, but we should order one skid at 36, get rid of those. There is not space in this room. We've already talked about meeting in person starting in for our May committee, the whole meeting. So, and there's really, they're quite a big box. It's a box within a box. So so is that what staff was going to say, Tamara?
Yeah, they were blocking our internet signals trying to get meetings going last week. They were taking up so much space. So we had to move them all around again just to get meetings going. So I think going back in person, there's no room in the council chambers for them. Like maybe, like you said, once, but to get rid of them. But I think you'll find it very squishy with that added in there too, with back in person. But
Mallory, was that your point?
Yeah, my only point was that we have to think about space for when we're selling them. So if you were going to get another 36 because we had so many people sign up, it would just be it would be good to start with one. Probably that's when you get your bulk pricing. So yeah.
Well, and I think that you'd have to have a commitment, like you might have to take those remainder people of which you have their email contacts, send out do maybe a lottery system with those again to see, let's pick 36 and then this is the pickup date. So we know the date of delivery. Once we find the date of delivery, this is the pickup date. And 34 people will do it and you'll still have 2 left over. But so it all kind of at the same time. It's just a thought. It is the logistics of it all. Councillor McKechnie, go ahead.
John, I was just curious, how much of your time would be spent on marketing and selling one of these? When, like, say I was one of the lottery winners, so I come into the office and you run like a demonstration how it works, I'm sure. So I'm just curious how much time is involved in selling these 100 units.
Last week admittedly took a lot of time. It was 4 days of 10 to 4 being outside in the tent to answer people's questions and to sell them, also facilitating the online survey and the commitment to participate. If we do a second kind of phase of this with another skid of 36 units, I would maybe wait a little bit just to break up the pilot as well, so that the people who are doing all the pilot work with the weekly logs, I'm not sure if we want the next phase of people to be doing that work as well. It has been time consuming. I will not lie. It's been a great project, but it's time consuming. Yeah.
Why couldn't the purchaser just go to the company and get it from them? Like, why are we the salespeople for this? I mean, is this going to be there's going to be all kinds of great innovations coming, and I don't know whether we have the time. I mean, I think it's great, fantastic that it's happening, but what's next? We're going to sell hockey equipment? I'm just being silly, being stupid.
Okay, John.
The residents can definitely purchase this directly from the vendor. The price, admittedly, is double. It's $500 retail. So we've received a kind of a bulk discount from the manufacturer. The initial 100 people participating in the pilot received a subsidy that council approved. That would not apply to further purchases, but I think people are looking for the discounted price at $250. Some people feel that's still a manageable price to pay as opposed to the $500.
So we could always leave it with John to, come back to, I don't know what the deadline is for us to still get that discounted rate for the people who weren't successful in the lottery, the 88% or whatever. That's, so I'm not going to do fast math, but there's well over 100 people who would still who wanted to participate. I don't think we open it up to just have forever. Those people took the time to fill out an application and that, but the logistics of it all, they are very large and take up staff time. So maybe we just receive this report for now, get started in the pilot project, and John can come back at a further date with, you know, we have until whatever, May 31st to do those purchases or whatever it is. Is that okay? Deputy Mayor Kennedy?
Go ahead, let John answer that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think that's a good approach. And then we can also see if there's a way to work with some of the other municipalities if they're bringing stuff in to reduce costs around shipping and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, go ahead then.
Yeah, it sounds like council's very supportive of the program. So the issue here I see is logistics. Is there an opportunity, John, while you're doing some more work on this file, to source out if there's any willing community partners? One that comes to mind, like with a search, you know, maybe they have some capacity for storage. You're suggesting a $17.50 handling charge for it. Perhaps we offer that to our community partner to help offset some of their costs. I'm just thinking that I think the support is here to expand this program. And from what I've seen on social media, the two comments that really came to me were the cost of the units. I think people don't realize that they can get them for $250 through the municipality, that they're looking online, they see the price is $500. So I think the way you do social marketing is awesome, and you're going to be a victim of your own success. So perhaps we need to look at a community partner to help us with this one.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Kennedy. And I don't think we need to open it up to the general public. I would only propose that we open it up, if possible, if there's a capacity, to the ones who applied, who weren't successful. That's sort of what we'd said all along. It's not going to be an ongoing forever and ever. And like we have bought the composters and digesters and had an amount on, but we're able to store those at the landfill. So it is a bit of a storage thing. I don't want to just like open it. If they are available online, and you know, people spend $500 on appliances all the time, so they are available. And there might be a time limit as to when we can participate. Councillor McKechnie?
Yeah, I just want the point to be made clear that I'm not against them. It's none of people want to purchase them. That's fantastic. It's going to help our environment. Fantastic. But I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, why are we spending so much municipal time selling these compactors? So that's all I'm just saying, that I know there's going to be a lot of people on the street. They're going to say, well, how come all this time, all this money is being spent on selling this product? And I think that people are going to, if John's going to continue to do what he's doing, we should be putting an admin fee on top of it to help offset his time. His time is very precious. He's got a lot on his plate.
Well, there is a lot of staff.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think we don't need to make that decision today. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it back with you, John.
No problem.
Yeah, we don't need to make that decision today or give you any further direction. We're going to leave it with you what to do. And while it is a lot of staff time, you know, what we're doing is creating a different trend, you know, and opening the public's eyes, Dysert's eyes to the possibilities that for the people that don't find composting or recycling an easy option. This was another option, and all we are trying to divert that waste going to our land, or I keep calling it a landfill. It is not a landfill, it's a waste disposal site. So let's move along from that. Good job on it. Mover seconder, if I could. Deputy Mayor Kennedy to move, and seconded by Councillor Smith. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole receives this report for information about the food cycler pilot project. All in favor? Okay, carried. And lastly, in this, we have new to you community yard sale. We're going to bring Andrea Mueller in, I believe. Wait till we see Andrea. Hello, hello.
Morning.
Okay, so I don't know who wants to kick this off, this great idea.
I think this is a great partnership between two departments here at Dysart. As most of you know, the Rails End Gallery has hosted an extremely popular Trash and Treasures event at Head Lake Park. That event was not held in 2020 or 2021 due to COVID. And the Rails and Gallery is kind of changing its programming priority. So it's not planning on hosting that event in 2022 or again. So Andrea and I have been in discussion with Rails and Gallery about a way to kind of continue the legacy of this event. And so we're proposing that we host an event on Saturday, July 16th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It would be held in the parking lot of the AJ LaRue Arena. And this change in location would not only protect Head Lake Park, but also make it easier for vendors to be able to drive in, to park into their stall and set up their sales booth. And really, because we're trying to promote a community aspect yard sale, we've rebranded, renamed the event to be New to You Community Yard Sale. And vendors would be able to purchase a stall, which is basically 2 parking spaces for $30 plus HST. And we'd have 35 stalls available. And the revenue generated from that event and from subsequent community yard sales would be used eventually to commission the creation of an environmentally themed public art piece incorporating upcycled and repurposed materials. We have information in the report about the site plan, bylaw compliance, how we promote the event, and potential partnerships, whether it be the Harcourt Community Center or the West Guildford Community Center, maybe hosting satellite events at their respective parking lots on the same day. The Lillian Four Seas Thrift Shop or a thrift warehouse maybe hosting sales on that same day. And even if residents were having yard sales or garage sales on their own property, they could tie into that same event so people could do a day of yard sales throughout the community. And this really supports, I think, Dysart's reuse activities and kind of coming back out of COVID and being able to gather again, a good celebration of our community.
Andrew, do you want to add anything to that?
We have people will be able to register online through Perfect Mind, kind of like if they were registering for a public skating or another type of program. So we have a waiver and questionnaire that's in there. There's certain things that we are going to ask people to agree to, like, making sure anything they came with, they leave with, that we're not providing power. We don't encourage tents, items like that. So those are all addressed in the registration form if this is agreed to by committee of the whole council.
Okay, and are we limiting it? I know you have anticipated revenue at 35 stalls. Will we limit it to 35 stalls? That's 70 parking spaces.
That's what we were thinking, because if you count out the 70 parking spaces, that takes you from, basically, if you draw a line from the electronic sign across the parking lot towards the skate park, that, and then, so the area from the electronic sign towards the municipal office would be where the stalls are set up. And it still leaves some parking spaces free for other activities taking place or for people coming to the sale that need a place to park. If there's a desire, I suppose we could increase it and have more stalls available, but that's something we would look for direction on.
I like the idea of limiting it only because, you might get more than that, and then it would really crunch flow of traffic up that at the arena, curling club, and yeah, so I'm fine with limiting it to 35. Councillor Clark, then Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The ones that will be offered or enabled to get a stall, I guess they'll be focused on ones from Dysart first, as opposed to vendors from out of the area trying to clean out the basement of their stores.
I'm not sure, like doing the online registration, I don't know how to limit it to just Dysart residents. I've tried with postal codes before, but it doesn't seem to work. So we can encourage Dysart only, or somehow put out that from this period it's just Dysart residents, and then there's a wait list for other people. We could try something along those lines.
Yeah, I was just concerned that what you see with some of the flea markets, you get people coming from far and wide, and it's usually seen as an opportunity by vendors who are trying to get rid of dated stock. The other thing though is congratulations on this, because I think what it will do is it provides a broader venue for keeping stuff out of the landfill. That there's things that we've got a lot of stuff in our homes and our garages that are still very much usable, but why put it in the landfill and just create more headaches for ourselves? So very, very good initiative. Thank you very much for coming up with this.
Great, thanks, Councillor Clark. So Deputy Mayor Kennedy and then to Councillor Smith.
I agree, great idea, but I think one of the reasons that, and I don't know for sure, but the Rails and Gallery probably did it in June, was not as much tourist traffic. My concern when I read this was, where is everybody going to park? And it's in the middle of July. It's a challenge at the best of days. And then we add this to the downtown core. I just hope that staff will take into consideration, maybe we look at some kind of policing to help with this traffic. I know the Trash and Treasures, they were parked all the way down to past the high school on the side of the road, which created other traffic flow challenges. So just something that staff are going to have to consider, but great idea, great initiative.
Does staff want to, Mallory, do you want to, and then I'll turn, I know Councillor Smith, you're next for Councillor, but I'd like to hear from Mallory and then.
I was going to ask for a clarification on that. Because, you can still park in the parking lot, correct? That's the way you're doing it. So in the parking lot, but then probably might flow into other areas as well. Yeah.
We've talked in some of our initial promotional materials that we're going to encourage people. There's parking on York Street. You can pay the paid parking on Highland, like really direct traffic to walk through town as a way of also creating some foot traffic through town, passing all the retailers. I think there's going to be a potential lot of spin-off from this day.
So, and I know from the parking lot, there is, yes, this parking lot gets used in the summer. It gets used by some of the main downtown local businesses, tell their staff to come park up here so they don't park there, which is fine because on a Saturday in July, this could be sitting 90% empty. But so there is parking along sort of down to the curling club side, then you come around the corner and down again on the far wall of the curling club towards the fire department. There's quite a bit of parking, but I think that staff should make sure that we have somebody wearing a safety vest to ensure that their traffic doesn't get blocked. We have EMS base there. We have our own fire department. People do funny things when there aren't painted lines and park wherever. And then one person parks and thinks, oh, that's parking. And it clogs things up. So, you know, if we have a summer bylaw student or somebody on site, one of the parks or arena staff, I don't know, but we need staff on site to ensure that doesn't happen. And there's also great parking down at the Rotary Beach side. That parking lot on a Saturday in July is almost never full. So, Councillor Smith, I know you were waiting in the wings there for a question.
Thanks. It seems like a good initiative, but as the deputy mayor pointed out, it's Saturday in July. Town is already crazy busy. In fact, some people say, well, I'll avoid going to town on Saturday in July for that very reason. So I do think we would need to think very carefully about that and watch for the implications of how we're going to manage parking and the additional traffic. But I also was curious as to how much staff time is going into, essentially organizing a garage sale. And, is that worthwhile as a one-time event?
I don't know if staff, I'll answer it first and then turn to staff. First of all, there is revenue, which I know that we said we could set aside for something else. So it's certainly, I'm sure that there will be quite a bit of revenue for that. I think it's also something you could see it as a community event. People love that kind of stuff. It's fun. It's, I don't know who it was, maybe Councillor Clark said, we're keeping things out of the landfill, whether they be books or clothing or all kinds of items that people have. So I think it's worth the staff time, which is dollars, I know, to have an event like this, and it's worth a try. And if it is not successful, we have 10 vendors and it didn't go over well, then we'll reassess. If we end up with 45 people registered, it's really going to be a wait and see. And we won't know until we try it, but nobody else is doing that. I know there have been boot sales where the idea is you literally park your vehicle and open your trunk. It's the English expression of a trunk sale. And that was down around the Rotary Beach parking lot. I think a church did that down there, and that was quite popular. So yes, there's staff cost, but it's worth trying it for the first time, and then we can reassess it and see if it's successful or not, or if it's something that was overly successful, we don't want to continue.
Yeah, well, it's in terms of the revenue, I understood it was prescriptive here. The revenue was going to be direct to a specific environmental thing as opposed to the general area, the cost of expenses for staff, and I couldn't help but note the contrast where with the food cycler that's going to produce ongoing benefits. We're very concerned about the staff time in that. But nobody asked about it with respect to the garage sale. Thank you.
I guess you could say it's part of Andrea's job. It's a community event, if you want to think, which we haven't had for 2 years. Any further, Andrea, did you want to comment on that?
I just wanted to say there's quite a few municipalities that take on community yard sales. There's some over in like Springwater and Tiny Township and places like that run they do a take on a community yard sale of a sort. This event takes a lot less setup and staff time than some other events. There's a lot less moving targets. It's, we have the parking stalls. We don't have to mark lines. It's two places per person. It does take somebody to be there the day of and to manage that. But as far as all the lead into it, there's not too much work. Forgive me if I'm wrong there, John, but I think we've got a lot of it already completed if it is to move forward.
Yeah,
and software for registration. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Sorry, I agree with you, Andrea. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a resolution to approve this. If I could look for a mover and a seconder. So Deputy Mayor Kennedy and Councillor Clark. Be resolved that the Committee of the Whole recommends Council approve the hosting of a new to you community yard sale event on Saturday, July 16, 2022 in the parking lot of the AJ LaRue Arena. All in favor? Okay, carried. Now I see we brought Andrew in, yay, but I was going to propose a 15-minute break. If that's okay with everybody. Nice to see you back, Andrew. That's great to see you. Did I say carried? That was carried. So if that's okay with council, before we start Parks and Rec and events, just to take what's the time? It's 10:30. So how about if we meet back at 10:45? Okay, and we'll be back at our screens at 10:45. Okay, we are back in session after that break, and sorry, Andrew, to bring you in only to take a break. But anyway, we'll start the next segment, which is Parks, Recreation, and Events. And so first off, we have a Parks and Rec update. So let's need Andrew's screen on. And as I said, welcome back. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be back. I just wanted to start off with the Kobe Islander is this weekend, and it's going ahead. So that'll be a busy weekend for us. And that means we'll be taking the ice out next week. And after that, park staff will be busy out in the parks, putting out garbage cans and working on the revitalization of Head Lake Park on the Woodbury Beach side. As well as doing our regular maintenance and putting out garbage cans and eventually installing the docks when all the ice is gone. And also in maintenance, of water treatment system in Harcourt Community Center has been installed. We got the water testing back and it's all good. So we got the green light to use that.
Okay, so nice to see that hockey tournament back. That's been a while, so that's exciting. That's always been a popular one. Any questions on update to Andrew? Nope, perfect. Councillor Clark, go ahead.
Welcome back, Andrew. Good to see you. You've got quite an extensive report, and I was noticing one of them is doing the lines for the pickleball. At the tennis courts. We had a meeting last fall with the tennis pickleball people who are kind of some of the same and some at odds as to about what goes on there. But I think we had and Andrea could perhaps maybe speak to it, but I think we had agreement that we're going to have some kind of a consultation or develop a bit of a longer term strategy on dealing with the two groups, the tennis and the pickleball players. And any thoughts on that, Andrea, in terms of pulling that group together and moving things forward?
So at the moment, the pickleball players have volunteered to help paint the lines at the pickleball courts. We're going to have a sign up. I did ask we have a sign dealer who we were dealing with, and I had asked them to make a sign for us. There's a few other projects I'd asked for, which have never been completed. So I'm moving to I've found another sign dealer that I've been dealing with who's very prompt. So I'm asking that person to make a sign for us to put up. So for the time being, there's shared use. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we had an agreed upon dates and times from previous committee of the whole council meetings. As far as a task force looking at new locations, I know there had been desire to look at potential to try and solve this issue long term, to see where things would be. So if that's the direction that staff are to go, to start forming that task force, then we will. But I'm waiting to see what our direction is, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think for the meantime, we're still in the middle of our strategic planning process, and I think that we need to sort of follow up and see where all of that lies first. And we did say that it is it is temporary, and we needed to look at a longer term solution to accommodate the ever popular growing sport of pickleball, which is just sort of exploding. But to keep them on the same courts is not the permanent solution. So then that leads to picking a location, and we don't have an obvious location where we have other flat, perfect land that we can just put in a grant or set aside funds to build pickleball. So it is going to be a little more complicated than that, but it is a temporary solution to be sharing the surface, sharing the courts for now. Tamara, did you want to comment on that? And then Councillor Smith.
No, I was just going to comment along those lines that certainly falls in line with our strategic planning discussions, and I'm sure there'll be more follow-up at that level, but we did put some money in the budget to start looking at some water, like elevations, flood elevations for one of our properties, to see if there are any opportunities. So we'll know more later in the year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Councillor Smith?
Thank you. And Andrea and Andrew, I think it's terrific that the pickleball group is going to help with the labor to do the painting. That's something they had volunteered to do last fall, and I'm glad to see that they're following through on that. That it's a demonstration of their commitment. That like the tennis players, they're putting in some, they're providing some assistance, on the court maintenance and so forth. And I see Andrew's got some resurfacing of the tennis court in his work schedule. The other thing, Andrew, great to have you back. Maybe you could check the roof of the West Recreation Center at the entranceway. Just that little 4x8 entranceway there. The shingles look terribly whatever shingles do when they curl up and so forth.
Yeah, curl up. Yeah.
If you could take a look and maybe if necessary, get kind of a replacement of that little roof area in your schedule here. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Andrew, I just had one question, which is regarding the library, because I sit on the library board as the Dysart Council rep. When it says to replace the interlocking brick with concrete, is that the individual bricks that have broken, or we're going to replace the whole walkway?
We're going to replace the whole walkway.
That's great.
Yeah. Most of the
I know
bricks
we have
have
been
deteriorated.
We had been patching where we could, where was necessary, and I believe that library was built in 2009, completed. So it's unfortunate. I know architects always want to draw in beautiful interlocking brick. We have it in our streetscape project, and then we think, oh, that looks so pretty on a picture, and then we pound the salt to it and shovel and bang it away, and it just
it doesn't
keep up. So when you're replacing it with concrete, will it be like a stamped concrete or just a traditional concrete walking path?
Stamped is an option that we'll be looking at. It is be depending on the company that we hire to do it and the cost mostly.
Okay, the stamped concrete looks really nice. You can actually get a sort of shape that looks, like pavers, but it isn't.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
anyway,
it looks pretty much identical when it's first done. Yeah.
I'll pass it on at the library board meeting because some maintenance stuff came up there. And then Rails End Gallery under the replacing the soffit. I can't recall if I imagined this or not, but were they talking about doing some soffit lighting?
I'm not sure. I just have on my notes. I was just soffit and fascia.
Does anyone remember that? Tamara?
The lighting was related to the grant that we applied for and we were unsuccessful with. We were just going to try and time it at the same time as they were doing new soffit and fascia, since it would be torn apart anyway. But there's still, Rails End may still be looking at that on their own through other opportunities.
So just make sure, Councillor Clark, if you can combine that. We'd hate to find out that we're doing the work and it's gone up, and seeing as it didn't come in the grant, but they might want to still do that anyway. Add that. It really looks lovely. Like it was one thing, in fact, at the library back, we did under soffit lighting and it just adds a really nice look in the evening, especially. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, they're looking at some other opportunities for funding as well. So that's still being discussed.
Great. Okay, so mover and a seconder to receive this report. Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the Parks and Recreation update for the April 12th, 2022 be received as information. All in favor? Okay, carried. Next, we have Harcourt Community Center update.
So as you probably are aware, there isn't really a Harcourt Hall board anymore. So I met with Councillor Donaldson and the Ladies Committee and some members of Harcourt Community Center a couple of weeks ago, just to figure out a few things and see what direction we're going in. But as part of it, I was really interested to learn about the sewing group that's there and some of the work they do, and just some of the other things that take place at the Harcourt Hall that maybe I wasn't aware of or that I knew about but not really, and thought it would be good to share that information with members of Committee of the Whole. So the sewing group, for instance, they meet weekly and they work on quilts, and they work on the top part of the quilt. They put them together and then they send them off to Victoria Quilts in Ottawa, where they are then quilted by machines and given out. They have to be 50 inches by 70 inches in size, and they're given to cancer patients. And so they go back to people in our community. Over the years, they've donated more than 300 quilts. They also have put together quilts that they give to, like, if a family loses everything in a fire, they'll put together a quilt and donate it to that family. So, and one of the ladies, I think she's helped with over 100 quilts. It's amazing what some of them do. One of them doesn't have transportation. People go and pick her up, bring her to the hall, and they work away. So that's one of the activities that takes place there. And I did attach pictures that they had shared with me. They had a whole library full of pictures, but I just chose a few to represent some of what they were doing. There's also the ladies committee. The ladies committee gives back to the community as well. They gave to 4 different charities over in 2021. But they do a take and bake sale, which I know some of you have attended. So they make quite a few. I have the number, I didn't put it in the report, but they make quite a few pies, and whether they're savory or sweet, but they make pies. They do snowmobile lunches. They do food service at an annual baseball tournament. So they're constantly giving back to the community as well. So those are just a couple of things that go on. At the meeting, we were looking to see if there's anyone out in the Harcourt area around that might be interested in doing some programming there, whether to rent the space to do exercise classes or to do yoga or something. So they're putting a call out to see if there's anyone that would be willing to do those sort of things. Some activities like that take place at West Guildford Community Center. So it would be nice to see things happening at the Harcourt Community Center as well. So waiting to hear back if there's any interest. And then every now and again, I will just update you a bit of what's happening out in Harcourt.
Well, that's great. Great to hear. And I really appreciate the pictures too. It just adds a little flavor. Anything you want to add, Councillor Donaldson?
No, it was really good that Andrea could come over and meet with all the ladies, because there was a fair number there, almost a dozen, I think. And they even waited for her. They wanted to meet her. So it was really good now that they have a face to Andrea and and know what the connection is. So it was a really good meeting.
No, that's great. Is the bingo up and running?
No,
Is
no,
there a
there is
plan
no
to-
more bingo.
And there's no plan to get that back?
All of the bingo committee, I think, resigned at the same time. So I guess it could go if somebody was willing to take all that on. But
it's too bad
at this point,
yeah.
not.
I just remember from prior to the fire, like that was one of the big things. And when we were building the building, that was one of the big things. It was gotta have bingo, and now there's no bingo. Deputy Mayor Kennedy.
Yeah, thanks for this, Andrea. Great way to promote things that are happening throughout the municipality. And it's everybody knows a pretty soft spot for Harcourt. Just wondering in the interim, since there is no committee board, for lack of a better word, the general administration and maintenance and all that, the not so fun stuff, is that being handled by you and your department and Barb, just in the interim here until something happens?
We've been actually looking after it for a couple of years now in terms of the operational and finances. We used to give them a grant to pay the bills themselves. Now we pay them directly. So yeah, we've been meeting with Councillor Donaldson and Andrea and myself, excuse me,
and then
trying to come up with a plan to perhaps take on more of the rental administration and so forth in-house, because volunteers do seem to be a little short these days. And as you noted, the committee's not got a quorum.
Andrew, did you want to add to that?
Oh, I was just going to say that I've had really good lines of communication with some of the people that used to sit on the board. So if there's a rental inquiry that comes through, or some things were booked through Harcourt, so we're transitioning and working on that. It seems to be going quite well, and everyone's working well together. So it's yeah. And there were some maintenance issues that they had brought up when I was at that meeting, and they all have since been addressed. And everything. So it was helpful to just be out there and see the site in person and see what some of the issues were. And we got
It
those
still
addressed.
would be nice to see, whether you want to call it a board or a hall committee. It doesn't need to be the word board per se. We took over both West Guildford and Harcourt at the same time in terms of we had been giving them an operating grant. So that whole stress of trying to make enough money to pay the hydro bill is gone. But it really does take a community knowing its own community to do things like this Saturday would be great for a snowmobile luncheon, and like from the village of Haliburton, we can't organize those things. The community needs to organize within itself. And, just as I might not want to drive 30 minutes to go to a yoga class, they don't want to drive this way. So maybe so I really hope that, you know, through Councillor Donaldson, you can encourage people that it isn't a responsibility of a board per se, but the organizing of community events in a community center that is like the most beautiful building, that is a beautiful building, an opportunity that we have for things like children's play dates or yoga classes or art classes or anything to be used for showers, wedding receptions, that kind of thing. Tamara?
Yeah, I think that was the idea of trying to work with some of these current user groups, was to identify their leads so that we could basically form them into in more of an informal events committee for Harcourt, so that we have that community liaison basically, and know when they have some good ideas to share and vice versa. So that's definitely the intent, to keep people involved as much as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. Mover, Councillor Smith first.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just a question then in terms of bingo, which is a pretty popular activity. You know, Harcourt's always had it, and if they're not going to have a bingo going forward, is that something that would be, you know, never in the past wanted to step on anybody else's toes, if you like. But if there's not going to be one there, you know, it wouldn't be, you know, unreasonable then for somebody to say, well, maybe we should try bingo in West Guildford. Would that be?
And I don't think it would be stepping on toes, Councillor Smith. It would just, because they really are meant for the sort of communities. There's bingo here at the Legion every Wednesday night, and it doesn't interfere with the bingo when it took place at Harcourt. So Andrea Mueller has a comment about bingo.
So I think one of the reasons why the bingo board dissolved during the past 2 years, Tammy, you can correct me, or Councillor Donaldson if I'm wrong in saying this, but I think they had an issue with the licensing and the requirements through the Alcohol Gaming Commission and what was required, because things have changed over the years and there's more stringent processes that have to be followed. So I think that was part of the issue. The other part is just people being worn out. So there is a bingo caller, a roller, and the machine is there. And I probably, tomorrow you were going to say this, we own that, the municipality owns that. So there is some equipment. There's stacks of sheets. However, I checked before to see if those could be used elsewhere. They cannot be, because they're numbered and they're registered to a certain participant, but there's lots of bingo dabbers too that they said, you know, anybody can have basically, or we can try and sell. So those are those items. And I don't know if Councillor Donaldson, if you took a different take or if you got the same impression.
No, I know that there's lots in their storage, and yeah, it just takes somebody that wants to organize it and jump through all the hoops to see how they can, like, even to use up everything that's there. I'm sure that there is a good call for it. Like if somebody did organize it, it would be a packed house for sure. It's just all of those hoops they have to jump through, and not to say that it can't be done, I'm sure. It's just finding the person that wants to do it, or the team that wants to do it.
All right, and I'm not committing. I just was curious. I hadn't realized that, you know, with the pandemic over, never going to return there, and so I appreciate the perspective, and you know, I'll raise it with the group and see if it's something they wanted to pursue a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, so just not to spend, Tamara, did you want to comment, and then we should, yep.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a totally given yet that Harcourt won't want to use it. Like there was quite a bit of money put into it. I think that just right now there's nobody stepped forward. I think, as it's been noted, some of the people who want to do the bingo want to play bingo too, and they can't play it and organize it. So that's always a difficulty in a small town with all the rules. But there could be, like, once we get things up and running more and get the rentals online, hopefully through Perfect Minds and things, and Andrea works more with local users, hopefully we can potentially identify someone, maybe through some advertisements or something, to see if there is community interest we just haven't heard from. For West Guildford, they used to have bingo there. I don't know what the reason was why they stopped it. may have been something similar. I'm not sure, but you may be able to find out from board members what that was. I don't know if this equipment's mobile or not either. Is it pretty big, or could it be moved between locations?
Well, let's not talk about bingo
Anyway.
too much. All exciting, but should move along. Under
But
the
tab
eye,
is there.
62.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that wouldn't even make sense. Okay, it is funny though how everybody, I mean, we know the radio bingo is just phenomenal, and the money that is collected, but the fun that people are having, and the 20 people get together. Okay, let's have a mover and a seconder, and for the Harcourt, yep, moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole receives the Harcourt Community Center update report as information. All in favor? Carried. And recreational ball hockey.
Finally,
Andrea?
some programming that's back to what we had before. So we have the recreational ball hockey starting on May 3rd. Quite excited about that. So some of the registration is full already. I know there's a wait list. There's a few age categories, which I never like. They're generally slower to respond, and it's a last minute, hey, are you playing? Are you playing? Okay, let's play and stuff. So we are looking for 1 or 2 more volunteer coaches in the 6 to 8 year old age group. There's a few people that have stepped forward to help us out, and so grateful to those, and just looking forward to having some programming take place that's more structured and not just a drop-in program. So
that's great.
It's a quick report.
Yep, that's okay. Quick report. I'll look for a mover and a seconder then, unless there's a question. Councillor McKechnie and Councillor Clark. Be resolved that the Committee of the Whole receives the recreational ball hockey report as information. All in favor? Carried. Advertising on the ice resurfacer, otherwise known as the Zamboni.
So this, the ice resurfacer tender went out on March 21st, and it was open until April 4th, at which point we received one person who put in a submission, and that was for Halliburton Timber Mart. And we're looking at a 3-year term from July 1st until June 30th, 2025, and the annual income of $1,250 a year, totaling $3,750 for the 3 years. They would be responsible for paying for the wrap that's used on the ice resurfacer, and then it would go out, and as it's out on the right now for the past 2 years, there hasn't been anything there because it was Source for Sports, and then they sold their business and she retired, and so there's been nothing on the ice resurfacer. So it would be nice to see something there again. So we're recommending that the Committee of the Whole accepts this tender submission from Halliburton Timber Mart.
Well, it's great that we did have somebody submit, and it's also nice it is for 3 years, because I'm sure the that material is not cheap, and you would not want to tender for a year. It's not worth it. It probably costs half that to do that. So, okay, mover, seconder to receive, Councillor Smith and Councillor McKechnie, second. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole receive and acknowledge this report concerning the results of the request for tender number 2022-REC-03, being a tender for the advertisement on the ice resurfacer of the A.J. LaRue Arena and Community Center, and that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council award the tender to Halliburton Timber Mart of Halliburton, Ontario, for a cost of $1,250 per year. All in favor? Okay, carried. And operation of a concession booth, also great. We got interest.
Yeah, so we were really happy to have interest in this again. It's the Ontario, I'm not going to go through the numbered company, Omara Food. Yeah. They're the current vendors at the concession stand. As you know, they've had an up and down past 2 years. They received the tender and then didn't have any consistent time to really operate the concession stand. So they did submit a tender to us again, and they were the only submission received. And excuse me, this ran the same course as the last one from March 21st until April 4th. And they are proposing $2,000 rental fee in the first year and $2,250 in the second year. they wouldn't need to move anything out. They just were approved by the health unit when we reopened again to allow concession stands. So I don't think they need to go through that process for at least another year. I think it's valid for a year. So if committee of the whole and council accepts this this tender submission, then they can just seamlessly move forward.
Carry on.
Yeah.
Again, great that we got a submission, and the last 2 years have been so hard on them. They weren't like even a regular restaurant to say, well, we'll do takeout, and then, you know, they ordered for a weekend and then got shut down. So what do you do with all those bags of frozen French fries that have best before dates? Just remembering that from this morning. Anyway, great. And, you know, it's a service that we're very lucky to have in Dysart, and it's a small concession stand, but like I said, the French fries are really good. I know. Okay, mover seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Clark. All right. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole receive and acknowledge this report concerning the results of the request for tender number 2022-REC-04, being a tender to operate the concession booth at the AJ LaRue Arena and Community Center. And that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council award the tender to 2698558 Ontario Limited, operating as O'Mara Foods, for a cost of $2,000 in the first year and $2,250 in the second year. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we've already brought in Kate, so that's great. That's all from Parks and Rec. Thanks very much. It's going to be a busy summer for you guys. And speaking of busy summer, Kate, I'm sure it's going to be a busy summer for you too.
Definitely. That's exactly what I was going to say. Perfect segue. Yep. So yeah, we had a great March break at the museum, and yeah, just so nice to see things getting back to where we want them, and seeing visitors that, you know, some visitors, as I said in my report, you know, for whom coming to the museum during March break it's a tradition for them, and is seeing those things back in place is just really encouraging. So yeah, that was wonderful. And yeah, we're just in the process of making plans for you know, summer for real this year. So yeah, we're looking forward to that, and yeah, it's all looking good.
Great. Questions, comments for Kate? Okay, seeing none, then I will ask for a mover and a seconder to receive your report. Councillor Donaldson, and seconded by Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole acknowledges receipt of the Haliburton Highlands Museum report. All in favor? Okay, carried. Great. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Short and sweet. We're going to move into building and bylaw, which we're already zooming and bringing in staff for that. And we've got Carl and Robert on board. So first up is our building permit activity report for the month of March. Carl.
Yeah, so March was, our numbers are consistent with what we saw last year, which was very high numbers. The change this year is that we're seeing a lot more accessory buildings than we are new dwellings this time of year. So again, it's being bombarded with the accessory buildings this year. That's about the only change, but permit numbers are still consistently high.
Okay, and I think we anticipate a few commercial properties within the next few months that are getting very close to ready to go on different phased projects. So that'll keep you busy too. Any questions on the building permit report? Councillor Smith, has a question? Or
I was just wondering, Carl, if we should read anything into the number of septic permits. Quite a bit. Or is there anything special behind that, or is that just?
I think it might be a result of the septic reinspection program restarting again last year. So that triggered a lot of properties that need to upgrade their septics and to accommodate extra bedrooms or issues with the septic tanks or tile fields. We are starting this year. We are actually recording why people are getting septic permits. So we're going to be able to report on that starting this year.
no, that's good. Great. Okay, mover and a seconder to receive this report, please. Councillor Clark, and sorry, seconded Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole received the March 2022 building permit activity report as information. All in favor? Okay, carried. Then the bylaw report, Robert.
Morning, everyone. As you see, we were just 2 less of calls this year in the last month than we were last year. And everything else is pretty standard there. If there's any questions or anything, I can answer.
Okay, questions, comments? Councillor Smith, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. You were going to give us something about the age of the complaints. You told us here that we got 4 complaints in March, and you resolved 4 for the month, but you know, there's still quite a backlog. Did I misunderstand something, or?
No, the average age of them is about six months or so. They're slowly working. As the snow's gone away now, I'm able to get out and go and see some of these properties that have been, especially the property standards ones that were all buried in snow. So that was a big delay on things. And even with some of the zoning stuff, they had to wait for the snow to go down. With such heavy snowfall this year, people can really do too much. So we worked with them, and now that snow is going, I'll be able to get out there and touch base with the homeowners and the property owners again, and see where they're at, and see what kind of progress they've made over, if they made any throughout the winter. I know some people said that they'll just go and try to do something. So now I'll get out there and be able to touch base with them and hopefully clear a whole bunch off in the next month or two, and go from there.
Okay, well, will you start reporting on the age, you know, just like a accounts receivable or whatever, that, well, we got accounts that are over 90 days, and these ones are 60 days or whatever? Is that sort of what, I guess that's what I envisioned when you said you'd start reporting on the age of the outstanding complaints.
Then a miscommunication between yourself and me. I just thought you wanted an average age of what they were, just a verbal report. I didn't know you wanted something for each month.
Well, I think if it's you know, not too much work, if you're kind of keeping track of these things, just to share it with council so that there's an awareness of you know, how many complaints have been outstanding for, you know, more than 6 months or whatever. I don't know.
I can look at something. Sure, absolutely.
So
really appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Smith has asked for that. Is the rest of council just sort of on board to see, you know, like, is there a way to chart that in a fairly simplified way? I would think you'd know the date the zoning infraction or complaint, whatever, came in. So there should be a way to put that on some kind of, maybe Carl can assist with that. Carl?
So with the zoning, a lot of the zoning issues are in relation to seasonal dwellings where they're not at the cottages during the winter. So that's why there's been outstanding zoning issues. From what I understand, I don't think anything is over a year old for zoning, Robert?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, so again, these zoning issues are standing ones from last summer that were, well, again, there's probably plans in place to get these resolved this year when the residents come back up to the cottages. That's my take on that anyway. But again, we can look at trying to do a timeline analysis as to you know, that process. But it's not like we have outstanding issues and we're not doing anything with them. It's just we're giving people reasonable time when they get back to their cottages to deal with these.
Okay.
I'm not
you know, trying to impose a great level of workload here. It's just, I think one of the students from the ULinks report this morning, you know, was impressed with an important lesson they had learned, that the importance of measuring things. And you know, so we know, or, you know, there's quite a number of these things that are outstanding. You've given an explanation that a lot of it may be really seasonal properties, but if we track them, just like we track the volume of building permits over the years, we compare, you know, year to year and so forth. Be the same thing here. Makes sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, and like Councillor Smith said, it's not to be a make work project. It should be maybe already the information's there. And I think what we're just really trying to track is are there any ones that we should be flagging because they are, say, 2 years old that we don't know about. Okay, so to move on, if we can for that, I would look for a mover and a seconder to acknowledge receipt of the bylaw report, Councillor Smith, and seconded by Councillor Clark. Be resolved that the Committee of the Whole acknowledges receipt of the bylaw update report for March 2022 as information. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Okay, next we have our last two, sewage system maintenance inspection bylaw. So welcome, Bree.
Thank you. Okay, so this report is basically as a follow-up to our meeting last month with regards to bringing the sewage system maintenance inspection program in-house. So this bylaw or this report has a lot to do with our changes to our fee bylaw, because as per the building code, we do require a 21-day period whenever we're making a change to our fees. So essentially, the bylaw itself has stayed largely the same. There's been a few clarifications with regards to processes, and obviously the changes to the fees with us bringing in-house. We were able to reduce our fees from what WSP was charging previously. So yeah, so I guess just to kind of outline what the fees were. So a change to the typical inspection fee from WSP's charge of $228. We've reduced that down to $180 for homeowners. We've been able to reduce the third-party review fee to $50 as opposed to the $130 that WSP was charging previously. And we have changed and added into, with regards to the third-party inspections, a failed attempt fee, which will allow us to cover for the staff's time that is needed to be able to follow up on any deficiencies with either the third-party reports or not receiving the full report and stuff like that.
Okay, so Bree, in there, is there the fee for failure to show, like if the appointment's been made and you get there and they forgot or whatever, or they don't have their lids off, or they aren't prepared?
Yeah, so the bylaw outlines that basically any inspection attempt will result in the fee of $180.
Okay.
So
okay.
if our inspectors go out to site and, again, something like you said, where either lids aren't exposed or something along those lines, they're not prepared for the inspection or they're not present, we'll implement a fee. We'll pass that on to our finance department. A fee will be sent out of $180 for that attempt, and we'll provide them with another scheduled inspection date, and then it'll basically be compounding from there. So if they miss that inspection 3 times, then they're going to get 3 inspection charges.
Okay. But they have the opportunity to, if we send out and we say an inspector will be there on July 2nd, and they have an opportunity, and then somebody will answer an email or a phone call saying, that's fine, July 2nd won't work for you, but July 8th will. Da, da, da.
Yeah, so those will all come. Basically, we're going to be working on, the goal is by the end of this week to send out our first area. We're hoping to start, our plan is to start in Eagle Lake area, because we figured that with hiring these seasonal inspectors, some of them may not be as used to our area. So Eagle Lake gives them the opportunity to still have cell phone service before we ship them over to Halliburton Lake. So we're going to start in Eagle Lake area with those, and we're going to try to wrap up some of the ones that WSP didn't complete last year with area 2. So we're going to jump those into like our first bundle. And those letters should be going out by the end of this week or early next week at the latest, to give us the, it'll exceed our 30-day requirement for notification for the first bit of inspection dates.
Great. Any comments, questions? Councillor Smith?
Sorry, just one quick question. When you worked out the rate, obviously the staff, the full-time permanent employee won't have been on board for the whole year this year. But once we hire the person, we'll be paying for them for a full year. So calculating your cost, did you use the full year cost of that new employee, or will there be an increased rate next year because we'll have a higher cost?
I can answer that one. So the cost was based on the original cost was based on the full-time employee, and we did take into consideration that they're going to be starting basically a quarter way into that the year. So we did implement that because the fee that after I gave it to Treasury, the proposed costs of the program, Treasury came back with a fee that was slightly higher. For this year, it should have been $190 to recover full costs. So I did take that into consideration, and we kept it at $180 for that purpose.
Okay. And do you charge HST?
Sorry?
Do we collect HST?
No, we don't.
Barbara shaking no, because we're not a company.
Okay.
So to Councillor Smith's point, then next year we'll have to calculate the fee for the next area accordingly.
So we did analyze the next area as well to see what the fees would be. And because it's such a larger area, we'd have to probably bring in 3 inspectors, and the fee would actually go down because it would be so many more properties. So it'd be more cost effective, and that the fee would probably be sufficient. But we'd have to do another analysis, full analysis once we finish this year, just to see what we're dealing with.
Yeah, because there's other factors besides the staff cost. There's driving, which is a vehicle, and tires, and a dreaded thing that you put in the tank called gas that's just astronomical. So there's all the costs that go with that, cell phones. And so just to clarify, Bree, for the area that is being letters sent out, area 3, I guess we're in now for this year, can you just describe area 3, the geographic boundary?
Yeah, so area 3 is going to include like Eagle Lake, Halliburton Lake, Moose Lake, West Lake, Bass Haunt Lake, Bush Wolf Lake, Ross Lake. I think that
up to
kind of
Percy?
captures them all.
Percy.
Yeah, so Percy within there. And it's basically all properties that are within the 30 meters. So that stays the same from our previous bylaws. So every property that's within 30 meters of the water within those general lake areas are going to be captured under area 3 this year.
Okay. Good. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, go ahead.
Yeah, just to comment, Carl and Bree, I really want to thank you for hitting the ground running on this. It's impressive that you've been able to put this program together in such a short period of time, and with substantial cost savings to our residents here and cottage owners. So it's good work. Thanks.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to bring up the that we're still waiting for WSP's final report for 2021. So hopefully for next month, we're still waiting for it. So that's why it's not been presented.
Thank you. Thanks for adding that. And at some point, just to think for council, not necessarily staff, but council, to look at a program that extends past the 30 meters, that extends to the rest of Dysart. There's a lot of septics out there that are near, well, we're all near water, just about. And so I think at some point we're going to need to look at, do we not inspect, or should we not inspect septics, all septics? So just park that up there. Mover seconder for this, please. Councillor Clark, second by Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Oh, jeepers. Mallory, can you read the resolution?
I'm just going to offer. Okay. Be it resolved that notice is hereby given for the proposed change to an existing fee and imposing a new fee in relation to the draft sewage system maintenance program bylaw, for which a public meeting will be held at the May 10th, 2022 regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole meeting. And that Committee of the Whole recommends that the draft sewage system maintenance program bylaw be adopted by council, presented at the May 24th, 2022 regular meeting of council.
All in favor? I got it. Carried. Thanks. It's the tail end. It's just the worst. I sound like a barking seal. Okay, thanks everybody from Building and Bylaw. Great. We are going to move into finance. So it's all you, Barbara.
Okay, thank you and good morning. So the first report we have here is the revenue and expenditure report at the end of March 31st of 2022, basically closing out the first quarter of the year. Two key items. The first one being that the municipal taxation line reflects the interim tax bills. And the second item is under transportation maintenance. The key expenditure there is the winter maintenance services for snow plowing, sanding, and salting.
Any questions? It's early in the year to have anything too much jump out at you. Okay, mover and a seconder. Councillor Smith, are you moving or did you question?
Oh, just a quick question and then I'm happy to move it.
Sure, I'll put you.
And first, Barbara, I think that the format of this report is terrific. It really provides great points of comparison. And, as you know, the roads maintenance expense, we've used 20.2% of our budget so far this year versus 18.3% at the same time last year. So consistent with Rob's extra workload in terms of the winter maintenance. I was wondering if there's anything, although it's only the first quarter, anything that you're aware of, from your perspective, are there any issues that council should be concerned about from a financial point of view based on what you've seen in the first 3 months?
So with respect to the 2022 budget, nothing alarming at this point in time. Again, it's very early in the year and we're preparing for the busy year, getting tenders out and contractors set up for some of the key capital projects.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Smith, I did put you down as moving, so I'm going to look for a seconder if I could. Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole acknowledges receipt of the revenue and expenditure report at March 31st, 2022. All in favor? Okay, carried. The sewage report.
So we have here the sewage report for the first quarter ending March 31st. Usage is up just over 9% if you compare it to the annual 2021 monthly average rate.
Okay. So motion to receive. I'll look for mover. Deputy Mayor Kennedy and Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole acknowledges receipt of the quarterly metered sewage readings report for the period ending March 31st, 2022. All in favor? Carries. The internal loan settlement between our.
Yes, so going back to December of 2017, there was $55,000 that was loaned to the Parkland Reserve from the Development Reserve. And over the years, there was some interest income for the Development Reserve and an interest expense for the Parkland Reserve. So as it stands now at December 31st, we have a balance of $57,697.14. And staff are recommending to settle that loan where the funds would be transferred from the Parkland Reserve to the Development Reserve. Back in 2019 and 2020, there were some land sales that resulted in $132,000 cash injection into the Parkland Reserve account.
Borrowing from ourselves, but keeping track, which is really important for future councils. Okay, mover seconder, please, unless there's a question. Deputy Mayor Kennedy and seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole recommends that council approve the settlement of the internal loan repayment between development and parkland reserve funds. All in favor? Carries. Speaking of reserve funds.
Yes, so we're looking at the 2021 reserve balances. So Schedule A and Schedule B detail the reserves that we have, and both schedules do lay out the flow into and the flow out of the reserves. As we speak this week, we are undergoing our annual audit for 2021. And one of the pieces of information that we provide to the auditor is a list of our reserve balances with the activities that are endorsed by council. So basically, we have the first group of reserves under Schedule A, and typically we see these reserves in the budget process as well. The key one there is our development reserve. And then in Schedule B, we have some contingency reserves here, and the key one there is the working fund reserve.
Okay, questions or comments on this to Barbara? Deputy Mayor Kennedy first.
This will probably be a reflection of my poor understanding of mathematics, but the parkland reserve, the group home reserve showing 98,000. We've disposed of that property. Does that get moved somewhere else during, now that we're no longer involved with that program?
Sure. Yeah, so with the group home reserve, that still exists. We have not closed the reserve. These are surplus funds here that can be used at council's direction for other projects. They are reserved solely for the municipality. And so one of the policies I'm working on is a reserve and reserve fund balance, and that will be coming forth within the next month or so. And these will be recommendations that I will make to council on where council would like to transition these funds to use them for future municipal initiatives.
Thanks, Barb.
Yeah, actually, that Deputy Mayor Kennedy, that was on my mind too, seeing that, but I knew that all these things take time, and it might be not till December or whenever, I guess not December, but that where we'd make a recommendation to close that reserve fund, transfer the balance into just development reserve, or excuse me, something. But we'll wait till Barb's report on the reserve balances and funds, etc. Yes, go ahead.
Just follow up with any chance we might get some of your draft recommendations, even though not complete, for the next strategy plan meeting that we have coming up in May? Of course, I got my eye on that money, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll try to have something for me, but I can't.
Just a general.
Yeah.
And okay, yes, maybe not. And I think that's almost more higher level than the actual dollars and the names of them. And I think what I'm hoping will come from when Barbara gets out the development reserve, or not development, reserve policies, is to be a little more specific than putting all the money in one pot of development reserve. So for instance, you build a new library, which we did in 2009, and we build a new community center in whatever year that was completed. It's all nice when it's shiny and new, but you need a new furnace and you need new shingles, and so we need to make sure either in a general building reserve fund that we a couple of years ago we did the bit on the medical center and the overhang, but we're not setting aside, I don't think, the proper money to say, oh well, that is so it's funded in advance so that's something I'm thinking about, is that to make sure we're putting in. And so Barbara will be working also with recommendations from our asset management plan and to making sure we're putting right money. We are for equipment, we are for a lot of other things. We right there, I think, with our roads, but maybe not so much some other things. And then special projects that we target, right? So if a council determines that pickleball courts are the thing, how much money to set aside. You need, and sometimes you need the engineering, and you need the plan ready before you can, and then you look for a grant, but you need to spend money to get money. So, any other questions on their balances, reserve balances for now? If not, I'll look for a mover and seconder on this one. Councillor Clark and Councillor McKechnie. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole recommends the council approves the 2021 reserve balances as presented in the attached 2021 reserve balances Schedule A and 2021 contingency reserves Schedule B. All in favor? Okay, carried. Lease agreement renewals. Okay, Deputy Mayor Kennedy is declared on this one, so you just need to turn your camera off and not participate. Thank you. Okay, Barbara.
Okay. Yeah, so we're looking to renew the lease with the Haliburton County Development Corporation. And the lease renewal is actually for 9 months. Typically, they renew for a year. The reason here is they're reevaluating their business model and just wanted a little bit of flexibility there. The renewal is based on the same terms and conditions as the existing lease that's coming up for expiry. The rent, there is an increase applied here, CPI in the preceding year based on Statistics Canada, that's 3.4%. So for the 9 months, we're looking at rental revenue of $2,546.73.
I was on mute. I'm coughing, so I try to put on mute when I can remember. Is mover seconder? I'm going, how come nobody's putting up their hand? Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be resolved that the committee of the whole recommends to council that council approves the Haliburton County Development Corporation lease extension for the property municipally known as 710 Mountain Street, Haliburton, for a 9-month lease period commencing July 1st, 2022 and ending March 31st, 2023. All in favor? It's carried. And we can contact Deputy Mayor Kennedy and let him know to come back in the meeting. You might have to chair. There we go. Okay, another lease agreement with Haliburton Vision Care.
Yes, so Haliburton Vision Care rents space at the medical center in the village here, and their lease is coming up for renewal on May the 12th. They're looking to renew for another 5-year term. And so based on the same T's and C's as the existing agreement, just a couple of items here, they're looking at an increase of 2.1% based on the agreement. That's the average CPI in the preceding 2 years. And they pay for their proportionate share of heating and insurance and property taxation.
Okay, it's great to get all these renewal agreements in place in the right time. That's wonderful. Mover seconder, perhaps? Or Councillor Clark, Councillor McKechnie. Be resolved that the committee of the whole recommends that council approves that the Haliburton Vision Care lease extension at the Haliburton Medical Center for a 5-year lease period commencing May 13th, 2022 and ending May 12th, 2027. All in favor? Okay, carried. And tax sales again.
Yes, so now we're playing a little bit of catch up here on tax sales. The properties that we have in front of us here, the 5 properties as it stands today, they're eligible to go to tax sale, and our tax sale date is scheduled for June the 15th of 2022. Now, I will note that this is the first tax sale date of 2 that we're scheduling in 2022. Our second tax sale due date is August 31st, and that will have a list of different properties there as well. So quite a lengthy process, before a property actually comes to this point. They're in arrears of taxes of 3 years. There is a lengthy process in terms of due diligence in compliance with the Municipal Act. It takes about a year by the time you get notices out, and so now we're preparing for the tax sale on June the 15th. We will advertise for 4 weeks, 4 consecutive weeks prior to that date, with the properties eligible for tax sale. So here, some of the properties, we've got a couple that are residential, and we have 3 that are vacant land.
So I just wanted to go over with you that I believe when we did tax sale last year, one of the things, just having the roll number, people don't know where they were. And when we actually do the advertising, we're going to attach a map as we did last year. Would that be possible so people have a better understanding of where the property is?
Yeah, we can. I do know that we put together an electronic package, and there is a map with the the lot itself. It's kind of it's not like a village of a map of the village per se.
No.
It does show the lot shape and so forth, and we do provide information in terms of assessment, roll number, and class. So it is up to the prospective bidder to do their due diligence as well.
Absolutely.
This information will be available on the website as well, so it can be downloaded electronically.
But providing that extra information as opposed to just a roll number is key, because otherwise we'll get far too many inquiries, whereas people can do, at least we're giving them that initial information, the slope or the shape or the topography, like all of anything else. If there's liens other than us, it's not we're not going to babysit them, but I do think it's important to do that little map. And the other thing is, I'd really like to see this, regardless of whether we're meeting in person or not, is to be done electronically. It was much more effective last time, and people can participate from wherever. I believe last year you reported, I think we had 160 participants.
Yeah, so last year we had conducted our tax sale virtually, and we had a very good attendance and actually very good response. So that is how we will conduct the tax sale moving forward, is we will do that virtually.
Okay. There's less this time around. I think there was almost more than double this. There was about 13 properties last time. But either way, I do think the electronic method on a go-forward basis for something like this is excellent.
Yeah, and so what we'll do is we'll actually also monitor if we are getting a very good response to any one of the properties. Typically, we start our meeting at 3 o'clock to open the tenders up. But if there's a sense that it's going to be really busy, we might move that ahead to 1 o'clock. Just to give us a little bit more time. The last tax sale, the one property had upwards of 40 bids alone. So that is very aggressive.
But like I say, there was more than double the properties, and that was lakefront. So I think you'll still get good response from this one, I'm sure. Councillor Smith did have a hand up, so go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for the questions you've been asking. Clarity we get on this, but I was also wondering, Barbara, your comments alluded to there's quite a bit of effort being put into this, and I mean the tax registration fee here is about $11,000. How does this work out in the end? Do you think we get enough to cover all of the costs of all the extra effort, or does this end up being a kind of a net loss, if you like, to the other taxpayers?
Actually, we do charge an admin fee for the process. All the costs for the actual tax sale process are recovered.
You do recover all the costs.
Yep. Yeah, we do have a municipal admin fee that goes on the property at certain stages throughout the process. As well, we partner with a third party to guide us through part of the process, and their fee is also added to the property tax, to the property. Typically, just very generally speaking, for a property to go through a tax sale process, you're looking upwards of anywhere between $2,600 to $2,800. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you for that, Barbara. I imagine the Municipal Act has got some fairly strict regulations around, you know, what we can charge and that kind of thing for it. But I noticed on here you've got the assessed value as of 2022. Has that been updated? Because I think a lot of our properties are sitting back at 2016. So kind of where you got that.
Yeah. So the current roll that was returned from MPAC for 2022, the assessments is based on the 2016 CVA. We do know that they're not looking at updating the assessments for, I think, possibly maybe 2024, but we're still going to be seeing the 2016 CVA in 2023. And I know there's been quite a bit of discussion about, you know, the way the markets are and the values on the assessments. And so I did participate in an impact webinar, and they did do a really good job in explaining the assessment and how it works. And so there's different variables in terms of how these assessments are calculated. Yeah, we'll have to wait. I think for Dysart, very encouraging. MPAC did come back and just kind of give us their plan on what they're going to be assessing in our area. And their forecast right now is showing they're looking at assessing $45 million. So that's pretty consistent, and they do their targets. They do target 85% of that assessment. So this year alone on new assessment is 40 million that we're looking at, and they do have very good success rates, and in some cases exceed that. So although your existing assessment is at the 2016 CVA, I think the real focus should be turning those building permits into occupancy and new tax dollars. But those new assessments are also being valued at the 2016 CVA. So it's all on that same valuation platform. So that's pretty much where we're at with MPAC.
Yeah.
And what's been quoted here is definitely what's in the 2022 roll book, which is based on the 2016 CVA.
Yeah, I guess my concern is if people were looking at this to bid on a property and they're bidding on something that might, you know, be 200,000, but reality over the last 5 years has gone to 400,000. You know, are their bids going to be commensurate with what the true value of the property is? But there's only too much we can do.
That's the whole tender process.
Yeah, that's you know, and don't forget, it doesn't matter to us. You know, in the good old days, it would be like, oh, that's nice. We got one tax sale. And now it's like, we're getting the taxes and administration and any extra fees. So there's no cost to the taxpayer, but all we get is all we can recoup. Not, you know, when we saw the other one go for $560,000, we made it very clear. Dysart did not just get $560,000 for a piece of property. So anywho, moving on for that. That's great that it's electronic again, just want to be sure. And I will look for a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor McKechnie, Councillor Smith. Here's all that the committee of the whole receives this report regarding the properties eligible for tax sale in 2022 as information. All in favor? Okay, carried. And the other thing is somebody could get that notice that the tax sale is happening and pay their taxes. Then it's back to them again. or even pay some taxes. Okay, last thing is the check summary. Any questions on our check summary?
Yep. So March 2022, total disbursements were just over 5 million. We had our first quarter requisitions to the school board and the county that there represented about 3.5 million of the total disbursements.
Yeah. You can always tell when you see those, the big month that's on the quarter that we owed, or didn't owe, we're transferring money that we collected for them. Okay, mover seconder. Councillor Smith and, sorry, seconded. Councillor Donaldson. Be resolved that the committee of the whole acknowledges receipt of the March 2022 check summary. All in favor? Okay, carried. And last thing in our open session today is the service delivery review in the planning department under consolidated fees. So we're going to be bringing Jeff in for a very detailed report. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you very much. As you all may know, through the county service delivery review process, one of the recommendations was to harmonize planning application fees across the lower tiers with the intent to address confusion for residents, contractors, and developers. Furthermore, the report notes that many fees were not accurately covering municipal costs to process the applications. So over the last several months, the SDR Planning Working Group, which is comprised of planners and the CAOs for the 4 lower tiers, as well as the county, have been reviewing fees from various municipalities and compiling a draft fee schedule. A progress report was forwarded to the County Steering Committee in March, and they expressed their continued support for this initiative. So we're now in a position to present the harmonized fee schedule to each of our respective councils. So here I am today. A draft version is provided for you. And this can be used as a comparison tool to look at the old fees versus the new fees. As you can see, where the fees are or definitions, where new fees or definitions are proposed, it's been highlighted in red text. The items shown in blue text are fees that are specific to Dysart only, and these fees were not included in that harmonization process. I'll admit there are some notable changes. The revised model uses flat application fees as opposed to application fees plus refundable deposits. Likely the most significant change is the inclusion of a tiered fee structure to apply fees for major versus minor development applications. The tiered fee structure applies to zoning bylaw amendment applications, official plan amendments, site plan agreements, as well as minor variance applications. Looking at the schedule, council will note a substantial difference in some fees between minor and major applications. This is to scale cost to the size and complexity of the application, as major developments require extensive consultation, the services of qualified professionals, circulation of various agencies sometimes, and greater staff oversight. While the fees are substantially higher for major developments, the minor application fees remain similar or result in a slight increase compared to the current fee structure. Overall, the draft fee structure proposes to use consistent language and structure across the 4 lower tiers, which creates transparency and fairness and satisfies the recommendations of the service delivery review report. I'm happy, it is a big change, so I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so let's open it up, and Deputy Mayor Kennedy's up first.
Great report, Jeff. And I want to commend you and your other compatriots across the county with taking this challenge on and coming up with a solution. It's just a question on your major, first of all, major official plan amendment. Will that also, $5,000 at the local level, will that also trigger a county major official plan amendment as an automatic, or is that separate? I'm
not all amendments to our official plan require an amendment to the county official plan. But yes, if they do require an amendment to our official plan and the county's official plan, it is 2 separate processes, and they will be required to pay both fees. Yes.
So that would be $10,000 then, based on this. So the county is endorsing these fees. Okay. Second question, if I may.
Yes, please.
Yeah, on the deposits, you said we're not really doing deposits anymore, and yet you have a list of deposits at the end of the report there.
Yeah, we took the deposits out of each application. These are more of a standardized deposit structure, which we've already had in our existing fee structure. So we did have deposits for appeals to the Ontario Land Tribunal, deposits for legal reviews, deposit for peer reviews of major or background studies and plans. So these already existed. We've tried to take them out of the flat fees and just have them as just standardized fees separate where they're needed.
Good. Thank you.
Anything? No. Okay. Councillor Smith is next.
Yeah, thank you. And as Deputy Mayor said, Jeff, it's a great report, and it's really terrific to see the initiative in terms of pursuing some of these things countywide and getting that consistency. And I think the other important point that you've made here is that the objective is to recover our costs. Somebody who's just living their life and isn't demanding changes or requiring changes to our zoning bylaws or whatever it may be, they shouldn't have to subsidize this sort of activity. So that cost recovery, I think, is very important. I was curious, though, in going through this, did you have an assessment at this point of the overall impact of these fee changes in terms of the total recovery that your planning services team would generate over the course of the year?
I didn't look at that. I looked at the fees in regards to some of the major development applications we have right now. But during the budget process, this process was going on in the background. So when I proposed the budget to council, it did incorporate some of these fees.
Okay, all right. So you were assuming this would happen when you put that budget together.
Yeah, there's been some slight alterations to what was included in the budget, but yeah, this was going on in the background at the time. So when through the budget process, I advised council that we were recommending a fee increase, or that it would be coming forward around July 1st. So we did incorporate some of these fees into that total.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one other question, beyond this discussion around fees, were you and your peers from the other municipalities having any discussions about moving towards some more commonality in the rules across the county in terms of how the individual rules? Have we been able to identify any opportunities, if you like, to bring some standardization to those two?
No, but one of the 4 recommendations was to review whether one tier official plan at the county level would be worthwhile. The county have noted that their next review of their official plan would be in 2024. So that process has been kind of kicked down the road till then. In the meantime, we have standardized our notices, and we are currently working on a standardized 2-tier pre-consultation process, just to, again, provide some clarity for the public and the developers.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Kennedy, go ahead.
Yeah, just a follow-up. Jeff, when do you expect rollout of this, and are other planners and other lower tiers in the county bringing this similar report forward?
My question.
Yes, I know this is being brought forward to Highlands East Council this month for approval. That was originally my intention, but I did miss some circulation deadlines with the newspaper. So my intent is to bring this forward to council next month.
And so to further Deputy Mayor Kennedy's question, so if we bring it forward to council on the 26th, when is it effective?
It would come into effect the day that council passes the law.
Okay. Mallory?
And it's going to come on the May 24th meeting, just so we can get our requirements in.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Sorry to correction on that. I know I had another question. Oh, a question is, talk about working with the service delivery review and with the other planners, but not all the municipalities have planning staff. They contract that out. So how does that work? When you're hired under the corporation of the municipality, you are always, just like we are voted on, but when we're always seeking the best interest of the municipality. Is it the same with a hired, contracted staff or contracted?
Sorry, could you clarify that question? Sorry.
Well, other municipalities in the county do not have the planning staff in place. They contract out some of their planning. So how is it working with a contracted staff as opposed to, like, is their best interest still in the municipality? Like, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I think I understand. And through this process, we realized there were some inequities between the different municipalities and how their planning departments process applications and both the volume and complexity of the applications they process. This is why we brought in the major versus minor tiered process. So some of the larger, more urbanized municipalities like Minden Hills and Dysart did need to recognize that we were receiving some very complex applications that were taking years to process, but we still needed to recognize that there were simple applications coming forward. So that's why we brought this forward like that.
Okay. Okay, great. If there's no further questions, I will look for a mover and a seconder for this. Move this forward. Councillor Clark and Councillor McKechnie. Be resolved that the committee of the whole accepts the amendments to the fees and charges bylaw as written and further recommends that a bylaw be brought to the May 24th, 2022 council meeting for approval. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Great. And what I thought we would do is take a decent lunch break. We have closed session, of which we have a delegate at 1 o'clock. So if we could be back in our chairs at 12:55, which will give us time to get everybody on board, that would be great. So what I'm going to do, though, is read the resolution to go into closed. Mallory's nodding. So technically, for the public, don't think that we're in closed session for 4 hours or 3 hours. We're just having a wee break first. So I will need a mover and a seconder to go into closed. Councillor Donaldson and seconded by Deputy Mayor Kennedy. Be resolved that the committee of the whole adjourn its meeting at 12:08 p.m. to discuss matters pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, under property standards file and recommended appointments to the Joint Compliance Audit Committee. Also advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Under Public Works, it's road ownership clarification. And under thirdly, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could be reasonably expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. Under Public Works, it's wastewater infrastructure. All in favor? That's carried. Hope I read that all right. So it is basically almost 12:10. So back at your computers at 12:55 and have a nice lunch break.
Okay, that's fine.
And if you see it now, do you have it up on YouTube?
I don't know if she can hear now.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Should be.
And we're live.
Okay, thank you. So there's no report from closed session today. Is there any notice of motion? Okay, seeing none, then I'm just going to look for a motion to adjourn today. Councillor Donaldson and Councillor McKechnie. The result that the committee of the whole adjourned its meeting held on April 12th, 2022 at 3 p.m. I have to put 3:01. I won't jive. 3:01 p.m. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your afternoon and a great day. Pat and I are back at it at county tomorrow. See you later.